Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Welcome to the Board of Trustees for the Washoe County School District regular meeting for October 25th, 2026. It is 2:01 p.m. and we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Before I ask for roll call, I do want to point out that due to the continuing impact of the hog fire, the superintendent and I have determined that we will only hear items that are time sensitive today. We will only be considering items in the consent agenda and item 3.04 regarding consideration of the board providing input to Nevada State Charter School Authority on the Doral Academy Northern Nevada's request for amendment of its charter contract. All other items will be moved to a future meeting. For those that have submitted public comment, the board clerk has indicated to me, JJ has indicated to me that we will make sure that those public comments get forwarded to the next meeting when those items that those comments pertain to will be made public. Having said that, item 1.02 is a roll call, so I'll ask the clerk Hall to provide the roll, please.
I am here. President Mayberry. Here. Dr. Nicolette.
Good afternoon.
Trustee Phoenix.
Present.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Sorry. Trustee Westlake. Here. My voice cracked there. Vice President Woodley.
Here.
And we have our trustee representative, Kaylee, with us today. Welcome, Kaylee. We're excited to have you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move to item 1.03, the Pledge of Allegiance. I see a very distinguished Nevadan in the audience, former Assemblyman Pat Hickey. Mr. Hickey, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And at this time, item 1.04 is our land acknowledgement. I'd like to have Trustee Smith give us the pleasure of reading that, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. We acknowledge that the Washoe County School District schools and communities are situated in the traditional homelands of the three major tribes of the Great Basin Native American peoples, including the Northern Paiute, Washoe, and Shoshone tribes. We honor their ancestors past and present and recognize these lands as a continued gathering place for communities. We express our respect and gratitude for the opportunity to live, work, and learn here in Nevada.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. We will hold off on item 1.05 till a future meeting. Moving on to consent agenda items 2. I haven't seen any indication that any trustees want to pull any agenda items, so I'm happy to entertain an item to approve the agenda items from 2.02 through 2.16. Yeah, I do need that, don't I? Okay, we do have a public comment? Okay, my apologies. We'll go to public comment first.
John Eppolito for consent agenda items 2.06, 2.09, 2.11, and 2.14.
John Eppolito. You can find 1,500 of us on Facebook at Protect Nevada Children. Thank you to the attorney. When the old attorney was here, we asked 3 or 4 times, how much money does the district spend on software and student devices? We never got an answer. But now with the new attorney, we finally have an answer. Thank you. A few years ago, one of your teachers told me, quote, if it wasn't for all these screens, we wouldn't need so many school psychologists, end quote. I don't think it's quite that simple, but she had a very good point. Today, you will approve that the district spend a bunch of additional money for psychological services for students. Spending more money on screens, software, and psychologists is not the answer. As I said 3 years ago, when I was the only one who spoke out against spending $6.5 million for iReady, quote, is it too late to go back to educating kids? Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, after Katie Simon Holland was no longer this board's president, she told me something like, quote, "Everything you've been saying is true," end quote. There was no substantial response when I asked her, "What are we going to do about it now?" What bothers me the most is how many students have been harmed because the district has ignored Protect Nevada children and gave student devices and told them these are for your education. It's all been documented. The inappropriate use of student devices, the addiction to social media, at least one suicide, and a lot of WCSD students who have been emotionally harmed because of screens. In my opinion, instead of giving kids devices and more psychologists, you should go back to educating students and use Parent University to educate parents on the dangers of social media and screens. One of the first adapters of screens for education was the Scandinavian countries. Now, Sweden has completely eliminated screens through 8th grade, and the other Scandinavian countries will soon follow. Instead, Sweden has invested in, imagine this, books, papers, and pencils. The LA Unified School District has severely limited the amount of screen times for young children. Starting this year, pre-K through 1st grade, no screens. 2nd and 3rd grade, max 20 minutes per day. 4th and 5th grade, max 30 minutes per day. Middle school, around an hour a day. Please, less screens, more books, papers, and pencils. You can find us on Facebook at Protect Nevada Children.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, JJ. We'll close public comment on the consent agenda. There's no items to be pulled. I'm looking for a motion to approve items 2.02 through 2.16.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Board of Trustees approve consent agenda items 2.02 through 2.16.
And I'll second.
I have a motion on the floor by Vice President Woodley, a second by Trustee Phoenix to approve the consent items 2.02 through 2.16. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Can I just mention?
Yeah, sure, go
something?
ahead, please.
I just want to mention a couple of our colleagues asked some specific questions about the playground equipment, and I hope that everyone who's watching will take a look at those attachments because that is something that we worked really, really hard. I know Trustee Smith brought that item to this conversation, and I think it's really important that we share that this item just approved several new playground equipment, and we're having a lot of conversations about outdoor learning and more playtime for kids, and we are fulfilling that promise with this item. And there's some really, I wanted to go play on those playgrounds. They looked amazing and wonderful, so I'm so excited for those schools, and I just wanted to share that we are fulfilling the promises of that. So I think it's really important that we bring it to light. Thank you.
Okay. Items 3, items for presentation, discussion, information, and/or action item. We are going to pool items 3.01, 3.02, 3.03, and those will be heard at a later meeting. We will go on to item 3.4. Just some housekeeping items here before we begin. I do want to ask my fellow trustees just to jot down any questions. It's a lengthy presentation. Make sure you indicate the slide numbers if you want to reference or revisit all of the presentation. We'll hold all questions until staff has completed their full presentation. This allows our staff to present the information in its entirety, ensures our community members are watching can hear the full context and respect the time and preparation of our presenters. In many cases, you may find that your questions are addressed as the presentation progresses. We'll then open it up for questions and discussion at the end. Item. Do you want to go ahead and make your disclosure now?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to make a disclosure that I will not be participating in this conversation. Ethically, I do not feel that it is appropriate for me to participate in this conversation. I have a close personal relationship with several teachers and administrators at the Doral Academy. My children also attended that school at one point in time, and I work professionally with many people at that school. And I feel like it would not be ethical for me to participate in this conversation, so I will be asking the president to excuse me from the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Hall. Appreciate that. Item 3.04 is a presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees' wishes to provide input to the Nevada State Public Charter School Authority concerning a request from Doral Academy of Northern Nevada to amend its charter contract. This item is before the board because on August 6, 2026, the State Public Charter School Authority, or SPCSA, formally notified the superintendent and myself, as board president, that Doral Academy of Northern Nevada has requested several significant amendments to its existing charter contract. According to the application submitted to SPCSA, Doral Academy is seeking approval to establish a second campus on land owned by the University of Nevada, Reno, construct a new school facility, expand from its current K through 8 authorization to serve students in grades K through 12, and increase its total enrollments by approximately 1,570 to 1,755 students, resulting in a combined enrollment of roughly 2,500 students across its campuses by the 5th year of its operation. The SPCA has advised that it is expected to consider the amendment request at its October 9th, 2026 meeting, and has invited Washoe County School District to provide comments or input regarding the proposal. The deadline for district comments is September 8th, 2026. Hence, we're meeting today on this item solely. The evening's discussion, I do want to be clear, is not a decision on the approval or denial of the charter amendment. That authority rests exclusively with the State Public Charter School Authority. Rather, this agenda item provides an opportunity for the Board of Trustees to review the proposal, discuss its potential implications, and determine whether the board wishes to submit comments or feedback to the SPCSA for consideration as part of its review process. As we proceed, I encourage all of my colleagues to focus on their comments on matters relevant to the proposed amendment, including potential impacts on students, families, educational programs, facilities, enrollment, transportation, and any other consideration the board believes to be should be communicated to the SPCSA. At this time, I do want to ask our staff to provide an overview of the amendment requests and any related information before opening the item for trustee discussion and possible action. With us is Adam Searcy, our Chief Operating Officer, Chris Hackbush, Chief Academic Officer, Jen Van Tress is our Chief Academic Officer, and Cameron Dyer, our General Counsel. Vice President Woodley.
Thank you. I just want to, first I'd like to express gratitude to you, President. I know we discussed this initially back in June when the same topic was on the agenda for the Board of Regents. And since then, I know we've had other board members that requested this item as well to come before us on the agenda, so thank you for that. But I just wanted to start to set the record straight because I received many phone calls from representatives in the community and some community leaders. And I just want to state for the record that we have this today because we have a fiduciary responsibility to our constituents, to our voters, to our students, to their families, to the neighborhoods and the taxpayers that approved WC1 and approve everything that we do. Our intent is not to vilify any entity or to vilify any individuals that are doing their jobs. That is not our intent, and I want to make it clear, nor do we engage in any type of, what I was asked from several individuals was if we were threatening entities or businesses because if they were to do business with any other entity that we would hold it against them. And I want that to be known that we do not engage in that type of interaction. We're here as a community and we want to do what's best for our kids and our students, and that's why we're having this item on the agenda today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice President Woodley. We'll go ahead and have staff present. Thank you for coming.
Of course, I'll lead it off. Good afternoon. Thank you, President Mayberry, Superintendent McMaster, Board of Trustees. I'll introduce myself and let my colleagues introduce themselves. I'll be joined, as the slide suggests, by others. Good afternoon. My name is Adam Searcy. For the record, I'm the Chief Operating Officer. And honestly, President Mayberry, your intro did a good job of summarizing really what's on the agenda here today. The charter school expansion request, I should note, is included as a part of this item's attachment A, the full proposed amendment. And that's really what is summarized here on this slide and what we're here to summarize throughout this presentation. So just sort of a vicinity exhibit to help everyone geographically orient themselves to the proposed location, as well as some of the most immediately present school district facilities. The overview of our presentation today is a summary of facts as we understand them, really a summary of the information that was presented to us for consideration. A thorough, over 150-page document with lots of information we're going to try to go through and distill into a handful of slides, as well as some related facts from the school district. As you alluded to, Vice President Woodley, we are going to stop short of any conjecture or conclusions, rather a summary and illustration of the proposal, and with the intent of facilitation of a public board conversation on this proposal. So starting off, this is kind of the table of contents, or the order that we're going to try to present this to the board in. And starting off, we're going to go through basically a process overview of how this amendment may proceed. So I'll transition over to Senior Deputy Counsel Cameron for the next several slides. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, President Mayberry and members of the board. My name is Cameron Dyer, Senior General Counsel with the district. Thanks for allowing me to speak this afternoon. This first slide starts off with kind of the operative law behind the request for amendment that we were notified from Doral Academy. I might refer to Doral Academy as DAN, D-A-N-N, for keeping it short. SPCSA, I think we already have that one covered. The first piece on the slide is requesting an amendment under the relevant statutory framework here, NRS 388-276. And that just says a charter school's governing body must submit a written request for an amendment to its sponsor. I think it's fairly straightforward that they have to go to their sponsor. In this case, the sponsor is SPCSA, and the charter school is Doral Academy, Dan. Next, we have the regulatory structure, NAC 388A.400. This kind of goes into more of the details. The statute kind of is broad. The regulatory regulations are a little more specific. In this case, it talks about requiring a written notice of intent to submit the request for amendment. That needs to be filed not less than 45 days prior to submitting the request for the amendment. And then the SPCSA, in this case, may, upon request and for good cause shown, accept the request to amend the charter school contract at any time. Can we do the next slide? Thank you. We're going to back up a little bit to kind of another statutory structure that looks at amendments. This one calls out 5 specific categories for amendments. You can see them on the slide. One's expansion of instruction, one is increasing enrollment, one is reducing total enrollment, another one's acquiring an additional facility, and the final one's consolidating the operations of multiple charter schools into a single location. In this case, the proposed request for amendment hits on 3 of these, which is the expanding instruction, increasing total enrollment, and acquiring an additional facility to expand enrollment. D and E are a slightly different color here because under those 2 pieces, the sponsor must deny the request if the school that's asking for the amendment doesn't meet its performance framework, which includes academics, finances, or organizational structure under a separate statute, or the governing body lacks a comprehensive and feasible plan to operate the additional facilities. The performance framework, as indicated, is here. You have 3 pieces: academics, finances, and organizational structure. My co-sponsor or co-presenters today will go over those in more detail. So there's an additional process required pursuant to the NAC 388A.400 I hit on earlier. In this case, I'm going to focus on good cause. Dan submitted its RFA for good cause based on anticipated opening dates in 2028, land lease negotiations with UNR and the Board of Regents, and a pending due diligence period. That's what they provided in their notice and their application. What they haven't shown is there's any specific need to actually open a school in 2028. They haven't shown that there's any pending agreements or contracts that would result in a hardship or harm if the amendment's not granted now in the short term or whatever time frame applicable. And they haven't shown that time's of the essence. Given that Dan's been working on this amendment for over 18 months, it seems like there's not really a rush. It feels a little hurried. That's me maybe prognosticating a little bit, but next page, please. An extra layer for SPCSA sponsored schools is that 45-day notice of intent I hit on earlier. As I noted, they are required to submit 45 days prior to the amendment request itself goes to the sponsor, in this case SPCSA. We have included into the record a supplement, I think is updated already, indicating an exchange that we had with the SPCSA trying to get the information around this 45-day notice of intent. When we asked for that, we did not receive copies. We did not receive any indication that that intent had been filed prior to us receiving this RFA. That was filed in mid-June. Once the meeting materials went up on this for today's Board of Trustees meeting, we were informed informally that that notice had come in. So we are unaware of what that notice looks like. We have not received a copy, but there is some documentation that you can take a look at that's posted as part of the meeting materials relating to that. The second piece after that 45-day notice of intent is there is a required hearing. This one specifically applies to the SPCSA for their sponsored schools, and the statute NRS 388A-279 requires the SPCSA to hold a public hearing regarding an amendment. Based on what we've seen, especially with the lacking 45-day notice that we were unaware of until potentially recently, and possibly insufficient showing of good cause, it doesn't appear that we can hold a hearing, or the SPCSA can hold a hearing in line with our own regulations and laws at this point. However, it's been put on the agenda for the SPCSA. As far as we know, this was in a notice in the attached materials for October 9th, 2026. NAC 388A-400 has a lot of subparts. We're going to skip to number 9 because this one looks at multi-campus facilities. Currently, Dan operates a single campus, and this request for amendment looks to expand it to a multi-campus situation. This regulation imposes 5 specific conditions on exactly this kind of conversion. And if those conditions aren't met, the SPCSA cannot approve the amendment. Those requirements are listed below, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, an academic leader, matriculation policy, an application lottery process for each of the campuses are separate, name, grade levels, and location of the new campus, and then authority to reconstitute, restart, or close each campus separately. On the next slide, you'll see that 4 of those 5 requirements were not addressed in the amendment. It doesn't describe who the distinct academic leader is at each campus. There's no discussion about the matriculation policy. It says it will be determined later. There's no per campus lottery that's been set up. It just suggests that the lottery at the new campus would mirror the one at the existing campus. And then there's no reconstitution, restart, or closure of each campus plan. The RFA does cover name, grade levels, and location of each campus. So putting it together, we have a roadmap left to right. The whole process starts at the public meeting, and this is kind of simplifying the kind of statutory and regulatory structure into something that's a little more digestible, if you will. So it starts on the left. There's a public meeting to talk about whether the request should be submitted. Then a notice of intent goes to the sponsor. Then the request is submitted, and the district would be notified. That's us. And we were notified. That's why we're here today. We got that notice from the SPCSA of the proposed RFA. The sponsor would review. The SPCSA will review the request for amendment, and then they can choose to approve or deny it at, in this case, a required public hearing. And the last 2 slides look at the timeline of where things stand. This first one is completed to date. We are at in between the 2 bottom dots there, between August 6th and September 8th. We have the notice, and we have the opportunity to submit informal input to the SPCSA before they take this to a hearing. The next page shows the upcoming steps. These are based on what's in the request for amendment. There's obviously room for these things to move, but this is kind of where the prognosis stands right now from a process standpoint. And with that, I will wrap up my portion and pass it back to Mr. Searcy.
Thank you, Cameron. Again, Adam Searcy for the record. I'm going to take you through the next several slides. This bullet point is roughly a table of contents reflecting how the application is structured and roughly how we're going to go through its summary. This is based on the link on this slide, the template provided by the SPCSA for the purposes of, as it says there, requesting an amendment for charter school applications and whatnot. So you can see the different, basically chapters of the full amendment request that we're going to break down now. So starting off, really a statement of request. As somewhat Cameron touched on many of these points, these four elements, primary elements, are listed and detailed and described in the amendment request associated with, their reasoning. The addition of a new campus, the expansion of their enrollment, and then both the affiliation agreement and the land lease associated with the university. Next several chapters go into more detail regarding the statement of need, a statement of purpose, and proposed rationale. And while there are a lot of paragraphs and narrative around these points, the two primary pillars of their statement of need, purpose, and rationale is a sustained unmet enrollment demand and a need for more innovative and career-connected learning opportunities. These are the exact language that are used repeatedly in the application. As I said, lengthy explanations and narrative around these points. We're unable to provide any analysis. There's no data or sources provided in the application regarding these two primary points. But just breaking it down now into the proposed scope and timeline, somewhat as has been described, the timeline is such that they propose to cause the school to open the 28-29 school year. So breaking that down, they talk in some depth about how due diligence and preliminary design would ensue throughout the balance of 2026, and that the entirety of the design and permitting would be completed throughout 2027, culminating in the beginning of construction, the start of construction in the fall of 2027, August 2027, with again a completion stated in the application of July 2028 ahead of an August 2028 opening. And we'll come back in more detail and talk about that scope, approximately 25 acres of land and a new building of approximately 100,000 square feet. There is some lengthy narrative in the application around various agencies that would need to be satisfied and provide approvals for such a construction project. Many of those agencies are noted on this page. There are a number of agencies that may likely also require some degree of consultation or approvals that are also noted on this slide that were not mentioned in the application. But as someone who has led, now every project is different, that come with a variety of twists and turns, but as someone who has led many projects of a similar nature through these types of processes, it is fair to state that this is a highly aggressive timeline and accepts a great deal of risk. That alone is certainly not a failure, but something that is to be noted. The next section of the application as outlined by the SPCSA deals with stakeholder notice and stakeholder impact. And so the application does a good job of detailing various stakeholders, how and when they were communicated with, and to some degree, what level of impact they might expect or are anticipated from the applicant's perspective. So, of course, existing students, families, and staff at Doral Academy have been communicated with in various forms and fashions, including minutes from their board that were included in the application dating back into early 2025. Also, well detailed in the application is engagement and ultimately publicly approved formal agreements between Doral Academy and the University of Nevada, NSHE, as recently as June 2026. Community, industry, and partners is noted and discussed at some length. Again, a lot of narrative, and then also a number of letters of support were included in the application from various local and community industry partners. And of course, the Washoe County School District is noted as a stakeholder. There is one mention in July 2025 regarding a meeting with limited detail associated with it. And then within the separate impact portion of the application, WCSD is not mentioned. As detailed in the staff report, a simple extrapolation of the projected enrollments and the associated per pupil revenue funds are also detailed on this slide. The next section, several slides summarize the financial impact and projections associated with this application. So this slide really just goes over the contents of the application and some of these major assumptions. Again, we're looking at enrollments, capital costs, upfront capital costs, operating expenses, ongoing costs, and the debt financing. So these, at the bottom of this slide, breaks down the projected enrollments into a year-by-year projection. So obviously they're looking to grow from 800 and some students in year 1 to 1570 plus in year 5. The construction costs are detailed in the application to range from between $400 and $500 per square foot. That's just the construction costs, with the total project costs estimated at $50 to $55 million for the total project, and then a number of details around their proposed debt financing, appearing to assume a term of 30 years. That's really the high-level summary of those revenues, or pardon me, the financial impact analysis. These are some takeaways that our business office put together. Most of these revenue assumptions appear to be within a range of reasonableness. There were a couple of questions noted by our business office, specifically large increases in interest income associated with some of their bond financing. So that was something that we had questions on that wasn't readily answered in the application, as well as some revenues attributed to pre-K enrollments, which wasn't fully detailed in the application. We weren't sure exactly what that was referring to, but the per pupil funding is noted to be projected to increase 2.5% a year, and other per pupil funding are noted and appear reasonable. Similar on the expenditure side, you can see that the application suggests that teacher staffing would remain constant, that appropriate levels of administrative staffing and associated costs are assumed, modest cost of living increases are assumed, and retirement costs and modest increases there are also assumed, all appearing to be within a range of reasonableness. Debt financing is noteworthy in no small part because of its size. This is a large factor associated with such a large undertaking, and so that was noted at an estimated amount of $3.8 million annually. So again, some questions remain on that. They did highlight a bit about their bond category, which conflicted with some publicly available information. But again, overall, given the information that was provided in the application, this appears to fall within a range of reasonableness. So kind of in summary regarding the financial projections, limited questions from our business team regarding the projected revenues on, as I mentioned, pre-K funds and interest incomes. No obvious areas of significant concern regarding the projected operating costs going forward. The largest variables, however, in this or most projects, and therefore the largest areas of risk, really include the total initial project costs and the immediate and ongoing enrollments or revenues associated with those. So really, no matter how we slice it, to summarize this, while the financial impact and assumptions appear to be reasonable, we wanted to at least highlight that should those assumptions around total project costs or projected enrollments change, that really exacerbates any risk associated with the project. So moving on to a little bit more about the facilities, we touched on this earlier. Proposal suggests a campus estimated to occupy 25 acres, on which they anticipate constructing a new building of approximately 100,000 square feet. Again, in that application, it's suggested that the total project budget is anticipated to be between 50 and 55 million. That equates to about $500 to $550 per square foot. I think it's always important to just sort of overemphasize. Oftentimes we look at a construction bid, for example, divide that by the project square footage to come up with a construction square footage. There are many additional costs. Of course, that is the largest component of a total project cost, the construction of the building, but there are design costs, permitting costs, and furniture, fixtures, and equipment costs that add to the total project cost. But just by way of reference, and we'll talk about this more later, the district's recent actual total project costs have been between $650 and $750 a square foot. Of course, every project is unique in its own way, but just by way of point of comparison. Also detailed in the facilities section and appended to the application are an affiliation agreement with the University of Nevada and a land lease executed by the Nevada Board of Regents with the University of Nevada. So in summary, the lease includes all rights for the tenant, Doral Academy, to construct this new building on UNR property with an initial term of 20 years. That lease includes up to 3 10-year options, and there's a specific section in the agreement providing that the university has no obligation to extend those options. So they are optional options, I guess. So just again, by way of orienting you to the high-level terms of the lease agreement. Also in the lease agreement, there are several different scenarios considered by which the tenant may be found to be in default. For example, if they fail to, if they pause construction for more than 90 days, things of that nature. But fundamentally, there is a completion date, certificate of occupancy, like the actual construction of the building must be completed on or before August 31st, 2029, or the tenant may be found in default. Within the lease agreement, the rent is set at a flat $75,000 per year. There are various escalators associated with that, but basically that's what the rent finance looks like, with annual 2% increases baked in. And then lastly, the university at the end of the term will own all of the on-site improvements, or upon default, or when the lease is retired. And then at such time, there is no option to purchase by Doral or anyone else unless amended. So that's kind of a high-level summary of the lease itself. Continuing on with facilities, I mentioned some of our recent actual costs per square foot for some of our projects. We wanted to include this larger exhibit, again, for regional orientation. We talk often about enrollment zones and kind of vertical alignment within our district ecosystem. Others speak in terms of zip codes and things of that nature. I think we all know this part of our community quite well with the various roadways and things like that, but I thought it was helpful to just sort of see it on a map like this. We also talk at length about all of the various projects that have been completed, have been approved in some form or fashion by this board, or are approved as a part of our 5-year capital improvement plan. So that is a listing including but not limited to of all of the various projects associated with many of these schools and their approximate completion timeline and approximate total project budgets. I additionally included just a listing for awareness of nearby WCSD schools you see listed on the bottom, as well as nearby WCSD sponsored charter schools. All of those schools are depicted on the map as well. The next section talks a little bit more about enrollment. As we mentioned previously, this is the primary revenue assumption and a primary element underpinning their statement of need. Just to reiterate and to be clear, there are no changes requested in this application to the enrollment cap associated with the current Doral Academy campus, which is capped at an enrollment of 996. The new application requests an enrollment proposal cap of 1570 or 1596. There's two different numbers in the application, so it's right in there. I just want to make note that there were two different numbers, so we're kind of highlighting both. And then further in the meeting minutes included in the application, it is indicated that the enrollment caps approved by the SPCF-SA typically come with a 10% variation, that the caps are allowed to operate at up to 110% of that ceiling, or in this case, up to 1,755 students if you take that 1,596 student cap. Also, the exhibit there is a part of the application showing kind of the breakdown. I mentioned earlier how they anticipate initially filling their school roles and then growing into that maximum cap in 5 years. Regarding enrollments, I wanted to illustrate this graphic again because the enrollment is such a primary part of the statement of need regarding sustained enrollment demand. We have no data regarding wait lists or other factors of demand associated with the Doral Academy, but we do know how many children have been born to Washoe County resident mothers for the last 20 plus years. This is a graphic illustrating the total number of births to Washoe County mothers going back to 2004. I can tell you that we have data beyond that, and that it has been 25 years since we have seen the same number of births in Washoe County as we saw in the year 2025, despite the fact that there are approximately 185,000 more humans living in Washoe County today than there were 25 years ago. This is to belabor a point that we've made many times in this and many other meetings, that this is a long-term regional and national trend of declining birth rates in our community. This is simply a fact. This is all historical information, not a projection. Drilling into this historical information in a bit more detail to dive a little bit deeper on this variable of enrollment, the graphic you see on your left are historic actual total enrollment numbers across WCSD enrollments, district-sponsored charters, Washoe County area private schools, and area state-sponsored charter schools, all broken down on those bar charts. And what I think the takeaway there is the top line, that for 6 consecutive years, our entire region, regardless of state-sponsored, district-sponsored, district-operated private schools, for 6 consecutive years, the total number of K-12 students in Washoe County has declined. And that is historical fact. Drilling into a little bit more detail still, we took a snapshot of the 24 nearest schools to this location. Of course, with any magnet school, there are a number of variables that might influence precise enrollment patterns. So we're not going to get into that level of speculation or projection. But looking at the annual historic enrollments across the 24 WCSD schools nearest to this location, you see a similar trend of declining enrollment. So this is about trends and not specific projections. This is not necessarily to draw conclusions with, but it is to provide additional context to historical facts relative to key elements of this application for all of our consideration. These are the elements associated with the financial, enrollment, and facility elements of the proposal. And now I want to transition it to my colleagues for a more in-depth discussion about the academic elements of the proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, Chris Hackbush, Chief Academic Officer for Secondary Education, for the record. I'm here to address some of the academic and other questions pertaining to unique and different offerings. The proposed rationale for the charter expansion request states that there's a unmet need for sustained enrollment demand and need for more innovative and career-connected learning opportunities. I'm here to share what we do offer as a district, which we provide substantial benefits to our students. From the proposal, there's a mention of learning labs extensively. It's not specified if that's CTE education or not, likely maybe dual credit courses. Washington County School District offers some of the most unique and different academic offerings, including innovative and career-connected learning opportunities. On this slide, you'll see some of those listed. So dual credit coursework through TMCC, UNR, and other higher educational partnerships throughout our high schools. Comprehensive CTE pathways in engineering, health sciences, computer science, advanced manufacturing, business, education technology. AP and honors coursework across all comprehensive high schools, STEM-focused academies and magnet schools and programs, early college opportunities for TMCC high school and existing university partnerships, and career exploration and work learning experiences through CTE and community partnerships. This slide shares specifically some of the CTE offerings that we provide in our district, which is extensive. We're proud of the growth of our career and technical educational offerings district-wide, not to mention the ever-growing internships and workplace readiness opportunities for our students. Whether you want to be a future engineer, pilot, teacher, have a career in healthcare, or work in the trades like diesel mechanics or manufacturing, Washington County School District provides those educational experiences district-wide. I want to highlight Washington County School District provides busing for our 2 CTE academies, AACT and Debbie Smith. I want to further share that CTE for All expands to all our schools, and that initiative is leveraging the generous donation of Gilmont Foundation, providing 2 Pathway to Aviation programs at AACT and the North Valley's High School Vertical. This grant also includes drone clubs in all our middle schools, in select elementaries, which is truly a transformational opportunity for our community. The CTE for All concept I wanted to kind of clarify is, if you remember, we had signature academies in our district. That's been a transition where we're offering advanced coursework in the CTE realm across our schools, okay? And I think that's an important point. I also want to explain as well that the offerings and the space in terms of AACT and Debbie Smith are not exclusive to CTE. I think a lot of people don't understand that we do have these courses in all our high schools, and that the school of choice open enrollment process provides families choice in these programs. I think that's important as well. Okay. I wanted to highlight some academics in terms of Vaughn Middle School. I wanted the reconstruction as a new 3-story campus opened in this past August. featuring advanced STEM labs, robotics areas, and dedicated creative maker spaces. The facility incorporates collaborative student hubs, a specialized deaf hard of hearing program with enhanced acoustics, and integrated observation areas for partnership with UNR to train future educators. If you've been able to walk that building, you may have seen that class where you have an observation space where it doesn't disrupt the learning going on, but student teachers can view what's going on in the classroom. Not to mention, it's a IB middle years program, which we've come to our board and presented on a few months back, and a dual language academy within Vaughan. Also included here that not only our schools provide unique and innovative academic offerings, our district-sponsored charters do as well. Just if you look at the titles of our district charters, you will see the array of offerings. You know, you've got the Coral Academy of Sciences, you've got Mariposa with the languages, ACE, again, career exploration and a 5-star school, Encompass, High Desert Montessori, and Snacks. Those are all very diverse experiences for our community. And of this list, 4 of these schools are title. So with that, this next slide goes into what exactly do we offer. We share 5 featured schools, what extensive choices we offer within the proximity of the proposed charter request. You can see here on the chart, if you can squint your eyes there a little bit, we have, our CTE sections. These are number of courses, in AP, the enrollment in AP, the dual credit, which is growing across our district with those enrollments, and then, of course, our IB offerings across AACT, Damani Ranch and Reed, Sparks and Worcester. District-wide, the line underneath the chart, there are some numbers there in terms of overall numbers for AP and how many students that impacts. Dual credit, again, over 4,000 impacted students, and then the IB program. Key highlights that we want to share from the day that we took on this, district-wide, again, Reno High School leads across the district in terms of AP participation, with over 1,100, almost 1,200 students. Among the featured schools here, Worcester offers the IB program with 46 sections impacting 589 students. Damani Ranch and Reed's a close second, provide the most dual credit opportunities and impact the most students in terms of dual credit currently. And that's, I think, regionally something to note in terms when we look at the proximity of this proposal. The feature schools collectively over 331 advanced courses and pathway sections. Again, it's important to note families may apply for the Washoe County School District School of Choice process to access specialized programs when capacity is available, including AP, IB, CTE, dual credit, concurrent enrollment, and Signature Academy pathways. These opportunities provide expanded access to rigorous coursework, college credit, career preparation, and specialized educational experiences across the district. Featured schools were based on regional impact and do not include Debbie Smith CTE in all these offerings. So again, want to highlight that. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Van Trest that will continue our presentation.
Thank you, Chief Hackbush, Jennifer Van Trest, Chief Academic Officer for Washoe County School District. So on this slide, we are comparing the demographics of students currently served in Washoe County School District and Doral. The most recent data that we can have is from the 24-25 school year. So while enrollment patterns vary across the school systems, there are several notable differences in the populations being served. In particular, WCSD serves substantially higher percentages of students eligible for free and reduced lunch, students with disabilities, and English learners. For example, Washoe serves students with disabilities at approximately 16.7% compared to 10.3% at Doral. Similarly, EL represents 15.2% of WCSD compared to 1.2 at Doral. There are also notable differences in racial and ethnic demographics. Hispanic students represent 44% of WCSD compared to 17 at Doral, and white students represent approximately 40% of WCSD compared to 68% at Doral. Taken together, these demographic differences provide important context for us to consider whether the proposed campus is designed to attract and serve a student population that reflects the surrounding community. The Doral application projects growth in both student groups as the new campus expands. However, with the projected growth, the anticipated percentages remain well below the current levels in Washoe. In comparison with the zip code area that Doral is proposing, WCSD provides comprehensive continuum of services, including specialized programs for students with autism, deaf and hard of hearing services, intensive behavior supports, intense EL services, and newcomer supports for our EL students and families. While the application references special education staffing and related services, the staffing plan does not identify any specialized programs, school psychologist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, or even providing a continuum of services comparable to those in Washoe. We also want to touch base on who is currently being served to how Doral is proposing to recruit for the new campus. The application identifies several recruiting strategies, including outreach to students on the current Doral wait list. And as Chief Searcy pointed out earlier, we have no idea as to who is on that wait list or what populations actually that group represents. Families near the proposed campus, and then students attending the surrounding areas. We know from our own demographics that the area they are proposing to build have higher EL numbers than most of the Washoe County School District, yet they're only anticipating an increase of their EL population by 89 students. It also references a weighted lottery intended to support underserved students. However, we did not find any details regarding how that lottery would operate or whether specific considerations would be provided for EL learners, students with disabilities, or students experiencing economic disadvantages. The application outlines services for special education and EL learners and how they would be provided, yet none of these services are above and beyond what are required under state and federal law, and nothing unique to Doral. The primary question for consideration is not whether services will be provided as required, but whether the application offers sufficient detail regarding how these students' populations will be recruited, enrolled, and provided appropriate services as they expand. We found limited information regarding how students requiring more intense services would be served through the proposed model, such as students with autism, deaf and hard of hearing, or behavior interventions, which currently reside in the population in the area they're targeting. Ultimately, while the application projects increased enrollment for students with disabilities and English learners, it provides limited details regarding the strategies, staffing, and specialized programming that would be used to achieve the outcomes for the unique learners, thus limiting our understanding of how they would truly address the needs of the targeted population.
Thanks, Jen. So that concludes the summary of this application. I want to appreciate my colleagues here today and many others who spent a good deal of time over the last 10 days putting this analysis together. It's by no means comprehensive, but intended to provide an informed foundation for the discussion of the board here today. As noted originally, SPCSA provided a copy of this request to the district board president and superintendent, offering the opportunity to provide input and requesting that if we chose to do so prior to September 8th. And in that notice, SPCSA also highlighted that they anticipate considering this amendment request at their regularly scheduled October 9th, 2026 board meeting. So with that, I'll return the mic to the president and open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Searcy. Appreciate it. And Mr. Dyer, I do want to welcome you to the Washoe County School District. This is your first time behind the podium, so it's good to see you and wish you good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Mayberry.
You're welcome. So colleagues, let's do this. I know there's a lot to talk about. Let's really stick to clarifying questions first, if we can, and then we will open it up to public comment for those in the audience. So are there any clarifying questions for our staff? And there we go. Trustee Smith, you're up.
You know you can count on me, Mr. President. Okay, couple clarifying questions, also based on some public comment. Can you please clarify the number of district-sponsored charter schools we have here in the Washoe County School District? So while you look at that, and I don't just mean in this area, I'll start with the clarifying statement to the public that the Washoe County School District does sponsor charter schools. And can you state for the record how many charter schools we do support?
Yeah, so if we go to slide 29, we'll have the list there for you. I did include all of them right there.
Okay, so is that like 11?
Well, okay, so.
With the multiple campuses?
There's the multiple Coral Academy campuses, yeah, which there are 5.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then can you also clarify if the Washoe County School District is the largest sponsor of charter schools in all of Washoe County?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Thank you. I thank you for that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Okay. So going to the percentage of students, which I think is shown really well on that slide 31. I do have some questions. Thank you for this information. I find this to be helpful. What percentage of at-risk students does the Washoe County School District serve? I noticed that that demographic was not here, roughly.
So when you think about, to be able to compare for Washoe County School District's enrollment, really we're looking at our free and reduced lunch. That also could include their CIT students and our, I don't want to call them homeless, there's another word for it. Our
Yeah.
rehomed, own
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
Yes.
children in transition, which
well,
are
CIT or
foster children
children.
in between unstable
This-
housing, yeah.
Yes, the free and reduced numbers, the 38,000 is approximately how many we have in our district that are considered at risk.
Okay, thank you, I really appreciate that. And is there a different designation for children in transition? Because I know that has a slightly different definition than at risk.
Yes, so the children in transition are children who are in transition. I
Yes.
may phone a friend on this one because I know Dr. Lamarca is in the audience at the moment.
I don't know if he's here.
Oh, did he sneak out on
That's
me?
okay. And so I appreciate that because we do have a very large number of at-risk children who are designated at risk. And within this immediate area, for example, Libby Booth Elementary School, once upon a time, maybe still now, actually serves the largest number of children in transition in the Washoe County School District.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, and it is also Title and 100% free and reduced lunch.
Thank
So-
you. I very much appreciate that. Just straight data, and the reason why I was asking, this is the point of clarification that goes with it, since these schools are in not the immediate area, but within the zip code being referenced. Did I look at the application correct for the projected the multi-campus franchise school, and I saw that 0 at-risk students are anticipated, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're in the tens of thousands, and I have 0.
Correct.
That is correct. Okay. Moving on from that, roughly how many Title I schools does WC1 have, either by quantity or percentage? And if it's possible, please consider our district-sponsored charters, because my role here, I'll speak individually, I'll let my colleagues speak for themselves. My fiduciary responsibility is not just to the public schools that we have, but also the charter schools whose charters we hold for them. So if it would be possible to just get a rough number, we have about 115 schools, right, give or take, and how many of those are Title I?
I'm trying to count on the page. It's 2.5 pages worth of the numbers. Off roughly, we know there are 4 charters that are title, and I'm going,
We'll work to get that.
we'll have to get that number for you.
Exactly.
Okay,
One,
but it's lots.
it's a lot,
It's
yes.
lots, like
Yes.
upwards of over 60-ish of
At
our
least.
schools. It's a lot. Okay, great. Is Doral a Title I school?
No,
Okay. Does this application project the new multi-campus franchise to be a Title I school?
no,
Okay. Is this land located in an area that is surrounded by Title I schools?
100%.
Okay. And I'm going to come back to that later because I think that there's a way to look at this regionally versus just zip code, but I'll come back to that. Thank you for that. In the application, I just want to make sure that I have this correct. The combined student size is projected at, we'll say around 2,700. In the proposed system budgets, I think it's 6-2 in the application. Can you confirm that the Doral franchise would only employ one single reading interventionist for about 2,700 students?
Based on the application that they've submitted, that's correct.
Excellent. And also with the student size of about 2,700 students, can you confirm that there would only be one English language learner coordinator for the entire system?
Based on their application, yes, the coordinator, not necessarily a direct teacher.
Correct. But that coordinator is only half their job because the other half of the English language learner coordinator is their community involvement coordinator. So it's kind of like a 0.5.
Yes.
Okay. Another point of clarification here. What is the corporate revenue being generated by this new school system for Academica? Because I looked in the numbers here and it looks like 1.24 million. That would be on page 6-2. Okay. Thank you. Okay, near to the end here. So I was also very interested in, and this might be a phone a friend for our legislative representatives here. We've got about $600 million worth of taxpayer-owned and funded WC1 projects in the immediate vicinity. This worries me quite a bit. Maybe this is more of a question for the superintendent. With the money that we have committed for WC1, which are taxpayer assets, so just as a little side note for anybody following along, Washoe County School District schools are funded by taxpayer money. They're also owned by taxpayers. Unlike charter schools, which are paid for with taxpayer dollars, but they're privately owned. And by the way, that's completely legal. That's exactly how the law is. Nobody's doing anything wrong with that. But what I see here is I look at the number of projects we have and the amount of money. So COO Searcy, considering the facilities modernization plan, if about 1,700 students were to come out of these schools, would we have to redo the facilities modernization plan or reconsider things like rebuilding Wooster High School based on the enrollment numbers? Is that even a possibility?
So as this board well knows, we annually reevaluate the needs and priorities of our capital improvement plan. A material variable on the scale of a new high school in this vicinity, K-12 school in this vicinity, would most certainly warrant a reevaluation of our distribution of investments.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So I have a question. Does the State Public Charter School Authority do they have the authority? I know they are named the authority. Do they have the authority to destabilize over $600 million worth of taxpayer assets? Or do we not know? Okay. And if the school was approved by the State Public Charter School Authority and it would take about $17 million worth of state funding for it. Would the school district be in danger of having to do a reduction in force or to lay anyone off? Is that a possibility?
I will just say that a reduction in the number of students would have a huge impact on the school district, and our funding is really based on per pupil funding. So for every student that we are under anticipated population size, it would have a significant financial impact.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Just a couple more, Mr. President. This might be a question for our senior legal counsel or our chief legal counsel. Is it legal for UNR to have a building built on university land that it would own that was actually funded by state K-12 dollars?
Based on our research, it appears that it is legal under, man, I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can follow up with you on the bill and the statute. But it does appear that it is a legal arrangement to have them build on there and lease to the charter school.
Thank you for answering
Yeah.
that. I think that's a real creative way for UNR to be able to build new buildings. Okay, this one's really important, and this is in reference to a lot of the completely well-meaning public comment we've gotten. I am personally very sensitive to how concerned people are when they worry about what's going to happen to their school, and I don't want anything to happen to Doral. They're a great school in South Reno. A lot of people go to school there. There's so much concern about, regardless of what happens with this other campus, would anything affecting this new campus, would that negatively impact any of the students there? Would they not be able to go to Doral in South Reno? Would any of those students have to leave their school? Is there any negative impact to the students who are already attending the campus in South Reno?
As far as we know, the South Campus would continue to run as it does currently.
Okay, that's important to me, so I really appreciate that. I don't want anybody to have to leave the schools that they're at. And then the last question I had is actually on page 18 of the application. Here, let me pull that up, because it's another legality question with it that I wasn't sure about. So it says that the school will utilize existing unrestricted capital reserves to support the construction of the campus expansion. These reserves were generated over time, in part through the school's internal management of its before and after school enrichment programs during the past 8 years. Is that legal for a school to effectively overcharge, or do they not have end fund balance rules like we do? Is that legal for schools to be able to do that, to save money over 8 years for capital funding? I genuinely don't know. That's why I'm asking.
I don't have an answer for that as far as the legality, and it gets into a accounting area region that I have to go talk to a CPA on to actually get a good answer on. But if that's something you would like a follow-up on, we can do that.
Maybe for on the other side of public comment, but that caught my eye, and I found that to be unusual, so that's why I was curious.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Any other questions or clarifying questions for our staff? Trustee Westlake, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, President Mayberry. So being a fifth-generation Nevadan, I'm pretty familiar with this area, and having, as a young child, grown up on a ranch, very familiar with the other ranches that are surrounding my family's ranch. My recollection is the land over on Pembroke was agricultural in nature and grazing cattle, but it is technically marsh land. Do you know of any studies that have been done for the soil, impact studies, compaction studies, things of that nature in that area? Because I'm thinking that cost could go up considerably if that hasn't been looked into.
So there's no specific information included in the application regarding like what we would call property due diligence. That's really proposed to take place throughout the rest of 2026. The property is noted in the application as being located within some degree of a sensitive floodplain area, and other developments, most notably the Veterans Parkway, had to go through extensive environmental clearances and mitigative construction endeavors. So while we'll just leave it at that in terms of expanding on what might be required at this property. And that's why I kind of noted on one of these slides that, you know, approvals such as the Army Corps of Engineers, Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, and the Truckee Meadows Regional Flood Management Authority may also be approvals that are required, but it's unclear, and they've stated as much that due diligence is still impending in the coming months.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is we have a very unique symbiotic relationship with our construction partners, contractors, electricians, welders, all of those wonderful people that I kind of think that Washoe County School District is one of their biggest supporters for them to be employing a lot of individuals. And WC1, with the taxpayers' approval, we have this very delicate, balanced ecosystem where our construction is in great health. We're able to build beautiful new schools and support our families. With that, I just would like it stated for the record, framed in how I'm putting this. It's more of a personal how we take care of our people here in Washoe County School District. Would that support be in jeopardy with taking away the funds from Washoe County School District and the need for new schools and modernization, the money that we would be losing? Would that affect that delicate ecosystem that we have with our construction industry?
I'll give this one a shot. Appreciate the sentiment. As I mentioned previously, a project of this magnitude, especially one that's been unanticipated in our recently approved fiscal and capital programs, would necessitate a reevaluation of our resources and deployment of those resources. Precisely how that plays out would absolutely remain to be seen. I also want to take a little liberty with your comments and somewhat aligned with Vice President Woodley's comments before. These similar questions and comments have been posed to me recently, and I want to emphasize that the Washoe County School District conducts all of our procurement, that is hiring of professionals and hiring of construction partners, with the utmost professionalism, and takes that responsibility incredibly seriously. As someone who has administered these and sat across the table from successful and unsuccessful proposers of the highest quality, I want to state on the record how seriously I take that responsibility. And furthermore, the vast majority of our construction contracts are by law awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and we have zero discretion as to who or whom those contracts are awarded to. Thank you.
Vice President Woodley.
Thank you. I'm going to follow up on my colleague, Trustee Westlake's question, because I recognize that area. I'm aware of that area. I've worked floods in that area. So I'm surprised that at the projection of costs, considering I know at one point we were trying to do soccer fields, and that required hundreds of thousands of cubic yards just to raise a soccer field. and that was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm really surprised at it much lower. But my question is, being the fact that this project would use funding from per pupil, and it's also on university property, would this project require prevailing wage?
I think that's a complicated question that many people at the state level are still asking. I believe somewhere in the application it refers to a statement or a commitment to adhere to the prevailing wage requirements, but speaking more as a legal trigger, that is a topic of ongoing discussion in terms of who actually the contracting entity is, if it is a public entity or whether it is not a public entity, despite the fact that future revenues are being received in the form of taxpayer dollars. So I can't answer that clearly, but I acknowledge that is an ongoing question.
My follow-up question to that is, would that not have a significant fiscal impact on any projection for construction?
Look, when we talk about construction, Vice President Woodley, you know better than most just how complicated and how many variables there are to that. I think honest and simplistic answer to your question is that it's not going to move the needle significantly, that the wages that are being commanded in our region for all manner of work are rather a function of supply and demand, and that prevailing wage versus the actual cost of doing business is actually not that far apart. A far greater variable and therefore risk is the time and the miscellaneous variables of the terrain and things of that nature. So that's why I choose to characterize it as a general category of risk without really trying to specify which one is going to go which way, et cetera. But with respect to prevailing wage, it's my understanding, having not contracted for work as a contractor directly, that the wages and rates that are being commanded just in this industry in general are at or above prevailing wage rates in private and public work today.
Okay, thank you so much, and a great presentation, amazing. Thank you.
Okay, I think Superintendent McMaster has some answers.
Yeah, I just have one of the questions you had asked earlier, Trustee Smith. Thank you for the opportunity to share. We did some calculations. It's 52 total Title I schools, both charter and non-charter in Washoe County School District, so approximately just under half.
Okay. Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Vice President Woodley, I got the same question about this. And I'll just, read this because I immediately went looking for this exact point. There's nothing in the application proper that has any reference to prevailing wage, but in the minutes of Doral's meeting minutes from, it looks like their July meeting, one of the members of their board mentioned that a firm that they're talking to has experience with charter schools and prevailing wage. And then it goes on to say, however, that they emphasize that they have no predetermined preferred contractors and they're open to community-connected firms. That was the only reference I could find in the entire application, was just some minutes about they're talking to a few people and some of them have prevailing wage experience. But I didn't find anything else in the application that indicated one way or the other. And so I just wanted to anchor us back to the factual information in the packet.
Question I have is, and I know there's been some discussion about the Worcester-Vaughan Elementary vertical. I'm curious, what would suggest that students would be pulled from that vertical, particularly given that charters don't provide bus service?
So at the opening and on the vicinity exhibit, everyone's oriented to the location of the proposed school. Technically, that location is within the Vaughan and Worcester enrollment zones, as we understand them. And while I'm not going to speculate as to where the students, future students of this school might originate from, nor do we have detailed information as to where the students who attend the current Doral campus live and reside, our experience at other magnet schools or non-zone schools such as AACT and Debbie Smith CTE Academy are that geographic proximity to the campus is the strongest predictor of attendance concentration. So, I mean, logically speaking, and also our experience has demonstrated that the closer you live to a school, the more likely you are to attend it. That's about as deep as we can go on that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, sir. Trustee Nicolette.
Thank you. I just want to ensure that there'll be discussion after public comment. I have no questions, but I have some salient points.
And we'll
Thank you.
process to get there. If there aren't any, Trustee Phoenix, please, go ahead.
Yes, just to make it quick there, again, great presentation, very detailed. We all appreciate that. Some good points about the need, about the great deal of risk and the timeline and the financial impacts and the factual trends, and in academics, talked a lot about enrollment and recruitment. So if we go to page 31, which is going to be Jennifer Van Tress, I just have one general specific question for the entire staff here, or the staff here. Does the staff believe, based on the facts and what you have there, Doral has provided enough detail on recruitment, transportation, staffing, and student supports to make those projected demographics changes realistic? And again, I'm sticking to the framework of the law, the facts, the data, the risk, the student impact, and the accountability. So,
It's, thank you for the question. It's very vague as far as how. They just say that they're going to recruit. It could be they hand out flyers at the grocery store. We have no idea as to what their recruitment will look like or how they will actually provide the services. So there was no details at all.
and then just for the legal, sir, on that there, on that part that you had up there on your slide about the 4 of the 5, and that there, a lot of that, which, just to clarify, some of those weren't answered. Only one was, right? Is that right?
Correct. Only one. Only one was addressed directly in the application. The other 4 were not addressed in that amendment language. I don't know if you can go back to slide 15-ish.
And while he's doing that,
Keep
I just
going.
wanted to make sure for clarification, that it was only 4 of the 5. There was only one that was
That's
answered.
one. Yeah, so this is, NAC 388 409, that does have those 5 pieces for what needs to be addressed when a charter school opens up another campus. Yeah.
I have no more further.
And so, sorry, correct, yeah, so
Yes.
only 4 of those 5 were addressed in the application.
Thank you for answering all those things, and President, I have no more further questions.
Okay, thank you. Anything else before we go to public comment? Outstanding. We will now move into public comment. I want to remind our, our commenters that public comments are limited to 3 minutes. They must pertain to the agenda item. If you have comments that are not on topic, they can be provided during the general public comment period at the end of the meeting. So with that, we will open up public comment.
Robert Munson.
Hello, Mr. Munson.
Good afternoon, President Mayberry. Good afternoon, Superintendent McMaster. Good afternoon, President Mayberry, and good afternoon, trustees. My name is Robert Munson, and as most of you know, I've been a teacher here in Washoe County as a public school teacher, going on my 29th year. Most of us recognize the role that the district-sponsored charter schools play in our community, whether we're talking about ACE, Mariposa, or Coral Academy of Science. However, the Washoe Education Association and Nevada State Education Association have long opposed for-profit charter schools, such as Mater Academy and Doral Academy, because of their connection to academica. While the schools themselves may be nonprofit, the out-of-state real estate development firms behind their facilities are for-profit businesses. They purchase land, they build schools, knowing that they will have guaranteed tenants, with taxpayer dollars funding their investments through rent payments that may continue for generations. The EMOs that manage these schools also operate for profit. So while the school may be nonprofit, the infrastructure and management surrounding it are not. And that distinction matters when we're talking about public education dollars. Additionally, as our district continues to make major investments in infrastructure, building new schools, and remodeling or rebuilding older ones, such as Worcester High School, the playing field isn't necessarily equal. The district pays prevailing wages on its construction contracts, while these private investment firms have argued that they are not required to do so because they are private companies. And in fact, they are private companies that are for profit. That creates a different financial model and raises questions about where our taxpayers' money ultimately goes. Changing the rules to allow these arrangements deserves careful consideration of the long-term consequences for our entire public school system. These investors may be amenable today, but what happens to rents and EMO costs if they eventually expand enough to gain significant market power? And if a nonprofit school becomes financially dependent on companies that develop and manage it, how realistic is it for the school to walk away if a conflict develops? Finally, we need to consider the students who will remain in our traditional public schools that are already inadequately funded and diverting the profits to out-of-state investors. Please oppose the rule changes and take a stand for public schools and the students and community you are elected to represent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Angela Orr.
Yeah, and just as a point of reference, and again, I think I said this at the last board meeting I shared, is, and I hate to be the bad guy, but I can't have any clapping or any booing, so this is a business meeting. You certainly can, say some positive things to your to those that you agree with, but please, let's keep this civil and no clapping. Ms. Orr, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for saying no booing before I got up here. Hello, President Mayberry, Superintendent McMaster, and trustees. My name is Angela Orr. I worked in the district for nearly 20 years, and now I have the great honor of serving as the principal of Doral Academy, a public charter school. My children still attend 2 different Washoe County schools. I'm here today because you're considering how to respond to our amendment, and I understand that there's a lot to consider. I wanted to be here in person in case you had any questions that I could answer, and because I respect the process. At the heart of this discussion, I think we're all in the same place. We want an excellent education for every child in this community. I know that sometimes people see this as a zero-sum game. That is, if one school wins, another loses. I don't see the world like that. I think a rising tide can lift all ships. I hope you'll at least entertain the possibility that this proposal could be a good thing for our community. Our affiliation with UNR is working to develop a laboratory school, a school that studies education. Researchers, they will be looking at how children learn, they'll be testing innovative practices, preparing future teachers, and bringing evidence-based practices into real classrooms. This is something worth doing. I've dreamed about a local laboratory school for more than a decade. I shared this dream while I worked in the district with many of my higher-ups who were excited for me to pursue the idea. I also shared it last year with Superintendent McMaster because I really believe that in following the research, studying what works, and learning from educators in schools that are moving the needle, we can make a big difference in education. I want to address a few concerns I've heard, not all of them. Quickly, if you look at the budget, I think you were referencing year 1 of a budget with half of the students and definitely not the budget for our entire 2-system campus. But also, I do not believe we will be taking down any Washoe County School District schools. Our current students come from 26 zip codes and 4 different counties. We expect our school of choice to draw families from throughout the region that are specifically seeking this particular educational model. We are not the right fit for everybody. That's okay, because Washoe County has so many great options as well. We also anticipate hiring highly qualified teachers who are interested in teaching in this particular type of environment. There will not be a lack of jobs for great teachers. Our current campus has never experienced a recruitment or retention problem, and we believe educators will be drawn to the opportunity to serve in a laboratory school environment. Finally, this venture was not conceived or funded by Academic Nevada, and we are committed to using local developers and contractors and paying prevailing wages.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janelle Mosel.
Good afternoon, Ms. Musil.
It's Mosel, thank you.
Musil, thank you.
Good afternoon. Push the button. Thank you. Good afternoon, President Mayberry and members of the board. I am Janelle Mosel. I'm an instructional coach at Doral Academy of Northern Nevada. I'm here today speaking in support of our charter amendment and respectfully asking for that the input that this board provides to the Nevada State Public Charter School Authority be accurate, constructive, and centered on the educational merits of the proposal. I have had the opportunity to see the vision and planning behind this project firsthand. The proposed lab school is not simply an effort to open another school. It is an opportunity to build a meaningful educational partnership that connects K-12 students, classroom teachers, future educators, and university faculty. A true lab school model can provide students with innovative learning opportunities while also strengthening the preparation and continued development of teachers. It creates a setting where effective instructional practices can be developed, studied, refined, and shared. That kind of collaboration has the potential to benefit not only the students enrolled in the school, but the broader educational community in Northern Nevada. As a coach, I understand that meaningful educational innovation requires careful planning, accountability, collaboration, and a willingness to examine what truly improves outcomes for students. Those principles are at the heart of this proposal. I have also worked closely with Angela Orr. I know her as a thoughtful, dedicated, and deeply student-centered educational leader. I've seen the seriousness with which she approaches this work and the care she gives to students, educators, and families. I recognize that the board has a responsibility to consider how this amendment may affect public education throughout our community. I simply ask that its input be based upon verified information, the substance of the proposal, and its potential educational value, not speculation, institutional competition, or assumptions about the motives of the people involved. Northern Nevada students benefit when educational organizations are willing to collaborate, innovate, and create new pathways for learning. This proposal deserves to be evaluated fairly and on its merits. I respectfully ask the board to provide supportive input to the SPCSA regarding our charter amendment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mario Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mario Fitzpatrick, and I serve as Vice President of the Washoe Education Association. I'm here today to speak about the proposed Doral K-12 school and UNR partnership. This proposed charter, to be built in the Hidden Valley area, has the potential to significantly impact the finances of the Washoe County School District. At a minimum, full enrollment at this site would redirect at least $15 million out of Washoe County. This would be a greater deficit than what the district faced last year, and with uncertainty around the state of the economy and how that will impact school funding for the next biennium, we must not only be cautious but assertive to threats that will negatively impact the resources available to our schools and students. This follows a familiar path that I and other educators in the district have faced over the last 20 years: do more with less. Doral's potential expansion comes at a time when we need to be investing more into public education, not less. In 1786, Thomas Jefferson wrote in a letter about the importance of education. I think by far the most important bill in our whole code is that for the diffusion of knowledge among the people. No other sure foundation can be devised for the preservation of freedom and happiness. How are we able to guarantee the freedom and happiness of our students if we allow other organizations to directly divert money and resources away from our public schools? Another potential issue, while on the surface of some may seem less significant, is how these schools will be staffed. Angela Orr, the current principal at Doral, has a strong reputation of being an innovative thinker with high standards for both students and staff. I can personally attest to this because I had the opportunity to learn under her tutelage for well over 10 years, and she has made me the teacher I became. Opening an additional school means that some of our best and brightest educators will be recruited to work at a new site with promises of innovation and less bureaucracy. Furthermore, the partnership with UNR to embed practicum and internship students will ensure a pipeline of future educators into the Doral schools, leaving Washoe County School District with a smaller pool of qualified individuals. However, we should also take this as an opportunity to be reflective and ask some tough questions. Why are schools such as Doral a threat to Washoe County School District? It is because we have failed to be innovative and aggressive in our approach to solving issues regarding student success. According to the Nevada Accountability Portal, 48% of our elementary students and 47% of our high school students are proficient. 43% are math proficient in elementary schools, while only 31% of high schoolers are. Our own data tells us we must attain better results for the future of our students. There's a disconnect when we graduate 84% of our students, but less than half are proficient in reading and math. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Pat Hickey.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Chair Mayberry. Good afternoon, trustees, and our new superintendent. My name is Pat Hickey. I'm a former assembly leader who supported bipartisan legislation that created charter schools in Carson City. I've served on the State Board of Education, and currently I'm a Sunday columnist for the RGJ, where I have consistently celebrated the accomplishments of both traditional Washoe County School District schools along with public charter schools. I'm here today to speak in support of public charter schools, and more specifically, the opportunity for you in Washoe County to pursue a stronger partnership between the school district, public charter schools, the University of Nevada, Reno, and our community. Charter schools, as you may know, were originally started by teachers and union leaders who wanted to give public school educators more autonomy and flexibility than is often possible in traditionally structured schools. The purpose of charter schools was not to undermine public education. It was to create room for responsible experimentation, to try promising instructional methods, school structures, and curriculum models, and then learn from the results. When an innovation works, it shouldn't remain isolated in any one place or school. Traditional public schools should be able to adopt, adapt, and benefit from successful practices. That is how charter schools can serve the larger public school system as partners in improving education, not merely as competitors. Washoe County has an especially promising opportunity here. Doral Academy's University Public School Community Lab School could become a working laboratory for educational improvements. It could give UNR faculty, graduate students, aspiring teachers, many who'd work in the district educators, charter educators, families, and community partners a place to pilot next generation learning environments, curriculum models, and teacher development approaches, and long-term research. Such a school will build on UNR's existing strengths. Public charter schools should not be viewed as a threat to traditional public education. They are part of public education. Their success can be a success for Nevada's entire educational system. Most importantly, it could give more Nevada students, not just those in any one type of school, a better chance to succeed. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you.
Kim Backus.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm here to just present something that my daughter, who was not able to be here, would like for you to all consider. My name is Jessica Cunningham. I request your support for the establishment of a K-12 lab school by Doral Academy of Northern Nevada. I spent nearly 20 years in education, 16 years teaching high school, 6 in Washoe County School District, and 4 years serving on the DAN's governing board. The expansion of the DAN model in collaboration with University of Nevada, Reno will undoubtedly raise the educational standards in Northern Nevada. A lab school is an educational site that works in conjunction with the university to host educational research, teacher training, innovative instructional practices, and curriculum development. DAN is already a beacon of in-house professional growth, data-driven instruction, uncompromised high-performance standards, and instructional ingenuity. I was privileged to spend 2 days engaging with Doral's teachers and administrators at their most recent professional development days. The collaborative culture of the staff demonstrates a spirit of inquiry, problem-solving, and reflection that will partner seamlessly with the unique opportunities a lab school creates for teachers. Lab schools are altruistic in nature. Benefits extend beyond the school site, spread throughout the entire community. Research, innovation, best practices will permeate the regional educational community as educators at university will inevitably land in local schools, Washoe County schools, private schools, and charter schools alike. As the university and DAN leadership already know, this is an opportunity to anchor precocious educators to our community and attract highly motivated teachers to our area. Additionally, this lab school offers pathways and connections to industry and higher education that will retain our most talented students. Students will leave the Dawn Lab School with 2 years of UNR credit and be connected to a mentor in the professional community. This is an exciting chance to keep cohorts of talent local. A true friend of education cannot in good faith oppose the expansion of an established, high-performing instructional and professional model. DAN consistently earns a 5-star annual performance rating, and their teachers are recognized nationally time and again. Nor can one object to extending research and innovation to professional educators. To do so appears disingenuous. Furthermore, the community demands the high-performance standard of DAN's current campus, as evidenced by the lengthy wait lists of roughly 600 families, 693 for the 2025-26 school year, and 5 for the next.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for coming.
I speak in favor. Please enter into the
Wendy
record.
Colburn.
Good afternoon, Ms. Colburn.
Good afternoon, President Mayberry and Honorable Board. I am here in solidarity with Washoe Education Association, representing both the Northern Nevada Central Labor Council and the Northern Nevada Building Trades Council. We have also not seen anything on paper demonstrating that this is actually a prevailing wage project, and we are always concerned about money being pulled away from our public education system. It is vitally important to us to protect WC1, and any work that goes on in this community building schools should be done under prevailing wage. So unless and until we see anything in writing guaranteeing that this is a prevailing wage project, we are in opposition to it, and broadly we are in opposition to it because we believe it would pull money away from WC1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rena Spansel.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Good afternoon, Superintendent McMaster. Good afternoon to everyone here in the gallery. My name is Rena Spansale, and go Colts. I am a proud public educator at Worcester High School. There have been many important things said today, important things said about the fiduciary responsibility of this governing body, important things said about how this will impact our existing schools, and I'm here to speak to that. Like I said, I am a proud Wooster Colt. I've been there for 9 years now, and despite the fact that I have been courted by other institutions in this good district, I continue to stay at that school because we do important work, and I know that the district knows that and is interested in continuing to invest in that work, because back in June, you all decided to allocate money to rebuild, which is very necessary, our school. And so I am here to not only remind you that you have made that decision and remind you that your staff has said that there are significant impacts that could happen to our school and the other schools that feed us if this Doral Academy goes through. And I also want to remind you that we have good people doing good things that you have already paid for. This project has not already been paid for by Nevada tax dollars, Nevada taxpayers, but it would be. And it's important to show our collective, our community, that we are investing in their students, not investing in Academica, which is based out of Florida, not investing in the University of Nevada, Reno, which is important, but is not a K-12 partner for us at this time. It does not educate our K-12 students. And it is important to show our students that we are collectively interested in supporting them in where they're already at. Not in the vision, not in the dream, not in the lab, not in the experiment. Students are not experiments. They're living people in classrooms right now, wondering if they get to go back to school tomorrow. And I ask that when you make your comments to the SPSA or SPCSA, that you include the existing and real conditions that exist in our schools, and that you consider what you have already decided as a governing body to invest in, and that is the school I work for, that is Fawn Middle School, that is all those schools around that Hidden Valley zone that, while we don't know, students would be pulled away from those existing programs and existing schools. As your staff said earlier, we do know, and we do have data, that just the a new school popping up in a geographic area, it means more likely that the people in that geographic area might choose to go to that school. Thank you for listening. Thank you for investing in what already exists.
Kaylin Evans.
Good afternoon. My name is Kaylin Evans, president of the Washoe Education Association, and I'm asking you tonight to not support the expansion of Doral Academy. And first, I want to be very clear. This is not a criticism of the educators at Doral or other charter schools. They are passionate, hardworking educators who care deeply about their students, just like the educators at our traditional public schools. My concern is about the students and the system that we're creating for them. I believe we're moving towards a two-tiered education system in Washoe County. Look at Hidden Valley. It houses Pivot, serving some of our most severely behavioral impacted elementary students. It also provides strategies, deaf and hard of hearing programming, speech and language services, occupational therapy, resource services, psychology, and other intensive supports. Doral says it intends to increase its special education population, and I hope it does. But let's be clear, providing resource services and operating programs like SIP, CLS, or Pivot are night and day in terms of staffing, resources, and intensity. So before supporting a new charter campus with 1,700 plus students, ask a simple question. Will this Doral provide those programs too? And ask about what about our students with significant persistent behavioral issues that aren't in special education? Will the school maintain the intensive interventions and alternative settings necessary to serve those students? We'll hear that charters legally have to serve students with disabilities and follow Nevada discipline laws, and that is true, but that's not the question. The question is whether they're actually serving the same students with the same level of need, and then comparing the results as though these systems are operating under the same circumstances. They are not. We're also being told that this is a laboratory school, and I love that concept. Charter schools were originally envisioned as places to innovate, test ideas, and share what works, but increasingly, that is not what we're seeing. We're seeing parallel K-12 systems competing for students, and to quote one of the members on the Charter School Authority Board when they were approving Matter Academy up north, he said, quote, "Let's go compete with them." And that was the exact quote of competing with the Washoe County School District. So the idea that this is somehow not a competition of some sorts, it's a disingenuous topic, and it's also been said by charter school leaders across our state. And then we can't ignore Academica. Doral contracts with Academica Nevada, which is a for-profit educational management organization. Doral's own audited financial statements show public dollars going not only to Academica for management fees, but also companies sharing common ownership with Academica. So this model expands. We should ask, are we expanding innovation for students or expanding the footprint of a private management company? Because ultimately, this needs to be about kids. Thank you.
Thank you. President Evans.
Jenny DeMonte.
That's Dr. DeMonte. You're welcome. Good to see you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny DeMonte. I'm here on behalf of many of my indivisible colleagues who want to talk about this. But before I start, I just got to say this. Great presentation. My daughter, who I told you about, is the mother of a 1-year-old, and she's been watching online. And she texted me to say, wow, I had no idea that of everything that the county school district offers. So, yay. Which brings me to my real point, which is there is no need for this school. None. You know, the school district, public school district, offers everything anybody could need. And by anybody, I mean kids on free and reduced lunch, kids with behavior problems, kids who are special ed, kids who are deaf, and so on, and so on, and so on. There's lots of opportunities for gifted children in our school district and elsewhere, like Davidson Academy. Also, there are stakeholders who are impacted negatively. There are parents and families who might see resources disappear if they're in the county school district. There's taxpayers, like me, and the school district itself and what it can do for students. The enrollment for this school, the projection, does not reflect the county at all. Throughout my career, I have supported charter schools. I've written lots about it, but I do not, when my tax dollars are going to line the pockets of corporate leaders. Horace Mann said, traditional public schools are a public good. He is the father of the traditional public schools. And I'm with him. I do not want to send my tax dollars to a private corporation, especially one out of state. And I do not want to, I don't want to see my school district gutted so somebody else can get rich. I know, and I'm sure Doral, we have a person on our leadership team who has kids at Doral and loves it. Great, knock yourself out. We don't need to put a $17 million hole in our annual budget. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
John Eppolito.
Sorry. John Eppolito. I find myself agreeing with Beth Smith a lot these days. In addition, I've also noticed that I agree on many issues with 3 of the recent past WCSD board presidents. So there's hope, Adam. In fact, it was Angie Taylor who brought the bill Protect Nevada's Children suggested last session. It was for the state to start deleting subjective and incriminating student data instead of storing it forever. The bill passed and was signed into law by the governor. Now we have to start working on the most massive student database ever created on U.S. school students, Infinite Campus. To learn more, go to protectnevadachildren.org. Now, on this issue, I make a living as a real estate broker. Plus, it's not nearly as frustrating as coming to these meetings. Slide 22, at first I thought this was wrong, but it's not. The district would be spending between $65 and $75 million to build a building on someone else's land. And after they built the building, then they'd be leasing it back for $75,000 a year, plus the 2% increases. They'd be leasing it for at least, and if they're late building it, they might lose it. And then they'd be leasing it for 20 years, even though they built it, and then they might get 3 extensions, maybe up to 50 years. It doesn't say who's obligated for the extensions in the slide that was presented earlier by Adam. And then, after the lease is up, they walk away from the building and UNR gets the building. Now, as a real estate broker, who would agree to that? This is ridiculous. And I do like charter schools. You know, we don't have as many choices up at the lake, but this is a terrible plan for you guys. And I was here when you guys sold the school in Incline to the TTD, the Tahoe Transportation District. And I remember the board president at the time said, well, we don't mind that we're selling it for less than market value, because I brought that up, because you guys sold it for a lot less than market value to TTD. Now TTD is turning around and selling it, and they're going to make a bunch of money on it, by the way. So this is terrible. This is a terrible idea. I can't even believe you guys are thinking about doing this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eppolito.
Eduardo Martinez.
Yeah, I think to Trustee Smith's point, remember, this is not our real estate agreement. You know, we simply are here to take a position, provide input to the State Public Charter Authority. So this isn't our deal. Does that help? Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trustees, Superintendent McMaster. My name is Eduardo Martinez. I'm here with Western Public Affairs on behalf of the Charter School Association of Nevada. And the association recognizes that the Washoe County School District has an opportunity to provide information and concerns for the Public Charter School Authority to consider. We encourage any comments from the district to remain grounded in the factual record and focus on matters within its direct knowledge and experience. We are disappointed, however, that some advocacy organizations and their members have chosen to use this application to pit public schools and public educators against each other. After all, education is like lacrosse. It's a team sport. Charter schools are public schools, and disagreement over an individual application should not be a broader fight among educators or different parts of the Nevada public education system. We believe this discussion should remain fair, fact-based, and reflect a full record to include the stakeholder engagement that previously occurred. As for our member schools who are part of the school district, we look forward to following up on Trustee Smith's comments on WC1. That funding, as you know, has been excluded for the district charter schools, and we look forward to continuing that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming.
The board received emails from Joe Calicurco, the Northern Nevada Labor Council, Joe Rice, Autumn Stiegel, Katie Burkett, Sarah Adler, Jessica Cunningham, Simone Gardella, Megan Canella, a Washoe County School District teacher, Janice Brown Silvera, Jamie Royce Gomes, Jennifer Tibbin, Margot Memmott, Dute Stevens, Courtney Arroyo, Amber Hart, Amy Bell, Jules Powell, Lisa Larson, David Zafsky, Dingsheng Li, Jenny Hunt, Lee Metcalf, and Griffin Peralta related to this item.
Okay, thank you, JJ. We've been yes, just got a message. We've been at this for just over 2 hours. We're going to take a very short break, so just bear with us. And when I say short, I'm really trying to keep it about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll begin our deliberation. So thank you. everybody's quiet, so that tells me. Is okay? We good? Okay. So a couple things, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion, deliberation. I know there's still a few questions, some comments folks want to make. Just want to kind of give my colleagues a sense of where we are and the potential direction that we could move. I want to provide some of that context. So as trustees are aware, Board Policy 9052 designates the board president as the official spokesperson for the board regarding actions taken and positions adopted by the board. So accordingly, should the board choose to provide input to the Nevada State Public Charter School Authority, that input would then be transmitted through a letter from the board president reflecting that direction and the decisions of the board. Because the SPCSA has established a September 8th deadline, again, as I stated earlier, for receiving comments, there's not going to be sufficient enough time to draft a letter to be prepared and brought back to the board for review and approval prior to that deadline. So I think it's really important that any action taken tonight clearly identifies the board's position and the specific issues the board wishes to have communicated to the SPCSA. My intent is not to in any way independently determine the content of the board's submission. I'm not the boss of this board. I'm simply your representative, but rather to accurately convey the board's direction. So any issues specifically identified and approved by the board tonight will be incorporated into a letter submitted to the SPCA. What I'd like us to consider, and I, again, just giving some context, I know there's some additional questions and follow-up, and we'll get to that here momentarily, but so you know now, in the interest of time and to be efficient, I'd like us to initially consider a motion to either support or oppose this project. And so once we can reach agreement on that matter, then we can kind of dive down into the details with what that input would look like in a letter. Does that make sense? Okay.
We are supporting the letter that we submit. That's
that would be the second piece, yes, yes. Yeah, correct, yes, yeah. Does that make sense?
No,
yeah.
Really.
So again, because I want to be clear, I want us to take a position on if we're going to support or oppose the Doral Academy expansion. Based on that decision, the next piece will be defining that letter and the input. And we will have a motion and a vote on that input as well. So two-step process. Does that make sense? Okay. Good? All right. Go ahead, Trustee Wesley.
I was going to make a motion.
Well, fair enough, but I do believe that there are some, if you can hold that thought, I think there are some additional follow-up questions. I think Trustee Nicollet, you had some that you wanted to convey, so I'm going to give you the floor.
Thank you. And I believe that this will inform deeper thinking, whether what we decide remains to be seen. I think everyone by now knows that I support the right and responsibility of parents to choose for their families, and that includes education. It's a right and a responsibility. What's troublesome to me about this application is, and it's been mentioned in public comment, is that in slide 6 and slide 16 of the PowerPoint, you reference sustainability and risk, which I think are extremely precarious in this particular situation. I'm troubled by the fact that Academica, which is out of state, which is really neither here nor there because we deal with many companies that are out of state. But they don't have to file SEC documents. They don't have to show balance sheets. I worked rigorously to find balance sheets so that I could see about the health of the company, Academica. I'm not talking about Doral now, I'm talking about Academica. I could find nothing. My deeper dive showed that there is nothing for a person like me to find because they don't have to file any of the same documents that all 17 public school districts in Nevada have to file. So right there, that is to me that unlevel playing field, and that concerns me deeply. To continue, the reference in the good cause exemption document is about scaling enrollment. And I get the concept. What a beautiful and wonderful opportunity that is not available to Washoe County School District. We cannot scale enrollment. I wish that we could tell parents, I'm sorry, our classrooms are full. By the way, there's laws about this. There's NRS, that we have to file exemptions every year because we don't turn away students. And that's the right thing to do. I wouldn't want to turn them away. So we don't get to scale enrollment. And that's very troublesome to me. To be honest with you, it pisses me off because it's not right. Unlevel playing field. Finally, I will say that yes, Washoe County School District, there's so many things that we want to do for our students, our families, our employees, every employee. And with $9,781 per pupil, it does tie our hands. But every single day, 24/7, 365, our 8,500 employees work their tails off to make great things happen, and it's working. It's working. We have so many options and so many opportunities. We have lab schools, we have teaching, we have research. We do research every day. Talked to a teacher just the other day in government about he's doing action research. It's happening throughout our schools, all 104 of them. I love the idea. I've done teacher training. I went through fabulous teacher training programs. I am a Deweyist. This is not unique. This is not unique. It is an opportunity. I love a good opportunity, but the sustainability troubles me greatly because academica cannot show that they're good for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So I have to say no. And I want to leave us with that unlevel playing field concept. I'm a lover of quotes, and I know I'm a little passionate right now, but I think that's a good thing. A level playing field is where everyone has an equal chance to succeed by following the same rules. Imagine a football game where I get to have 20 players and you get to have 5, and I get to have 3 balls and my field's only 50 yards and yours is 100. This is what we're talking about. And I will close with this. I hate when we, the collective we, consider students, children, our most precious gift as assets. They are not assets. Yet they represent a dollar that ties all of our hands. They are not assets. They're a beautiful future. And so thank you for letting me have my tirade. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Trustee Nicolette. Appreciate it. Trustee Smith.
Thank you, and I appreciate Trustee Nicolette's words very much. I have a brief clarifying question, just a couple, and then maybe we can move forward on a motion. There's so much talk about supporting student teachers and innovation. Maybe this is a question for the superintendent or perhaps one of the chiefs that we have here. Does Washoe County School District partner with UNR's College of Education?
Washoe County School District has a long-standing partnership with the University of Nevada, Reno. In fact, we do have a partnership with the New Vaughn Middle School opening up with the lab school classroom that's right next door. We've been hosting student teachers for many years. We have practicum relationships where our students come and learn very early on in their careers. So yes, we've been working in partnership with the College of Education, and I would say that relationship continues to grow and improve every day.
So the answer would be yes, we do work with UNR's College of Education. And also, yes, we have observation rooms that just opened, an observation lab that studies high quality instruction at our schools. Would it also be yes, that we work in partnership with UNR faculty on the development of education?
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
excellent. Yes, we host and support student teachers from UNR.
Yes.
And yes, we pilot curriculum for the state.
Yes.
Yes. And yes, would the answer be yes, that we offer teacher training here in the Washoe County School District?
Yes.
Yes. And then would the answer be yes, that we support research in partnership with UNR and other Nevada-based institutions?
Yes.
Excellent. Does UNR know that we do this with them?
Yes.
Okay, maybe we could make a one sheet for them so that they understand that as well too. I am deeply concerned about why they're confused about the research and labs that already exist. But that was my point of clarification for that. Second one is, Board President, this might be for you. Depending on the outcome of today's action, would you or a representative be able to also speak on behalf of the board? The district will take its position, but the next meeting would be at the State Public Charter School Authority meeting. Would you be able to speak on our behalf in addition to whatever it is we support on a district level?
Sure. I certainly would be amenable to that if we land, if I'm supportive of whatever comments that we provide. Sure.
I appreciate that. I know we can all speak individually as trustees and we don't need
We can,
permission to
correct.
do that. But only one representative can speak with the authority of the board, and that's either the president or someone you designate. Okay. Those are the only clarifying questions I have, and we can move forward with a motion or whatever the pleasure of the board is for the first part.
Mr. Dyer.
Yeah, President Mayberry, I just had a couple of follow-ups for Trustee Smith. She had asked
Please,
a couple
thank you.
questions I did not have answers for earlier.
Please, thank you.
Trustee Smith, you had asked about can Doral Academy use public funds to build this building on UNR land, and the statutory reference on that is SB 384 from 2013. It was codified as NRS 388A.378, and that does provide for the use of public funds for construction and, quote, to use the public money to purchase real property or buildings with the approval of the sponsor. And I believe that ties into your next question that you had about using unrestricted or unreserved funds for this building. And I believe the answer to that is yes, under that same framework, so long as there's approval of the sponsor and they have determined that it's responsible, good use of those funds.
Yeah, I appreciate that clarification. I wonder if the parents whose money went to the before and after school care or their enrichment programs knew that savings were being swept into a future fund to buy a building for UNR. We'd have to go back and actually see what those materials were if they understood that when they were paying, or the taxpayers were paying for that.
I cannot
Thank you.
comment on that part. And second point I also wanted to note was regarding prevailing wage, there is a component in the contract with UNR under Article 8, which is Attachment 8, page 21, that says that they agree to comply with prevailing wage laws for the development of the project. Just as, another little piece I think that came up as discussion earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the due diligence and the follow-up. That's helpful. Trustee Westlake.
I had a question, but then I was a witness when I went to introduce myself and meet the new principal at Sepulveda Elementary School. We had education students from UNR that were visiting that day, and they were opened with welcome arms, just as any school. We would welcome student educators into our schools. So it's a given. We already have that element built in through Vaughn's lab and through our welcoming nature for any education students to come in and observe or participate in our classroom. So that is not unique to this lab school. That it's being touted as a lab school. A question I have, this public dollars are being redirected into a for-profit education model. Doral does not have the academic model or historical record of servicing at-risk learners. Would that be a true or false statement?
Based on the data that we have available to us, no. They have a very limited or zero at-risk school population.
And true or false, or if you want to add something to it, but at-risk students require a lot of supports, which they deserve, a lot of supports and extra services. And has Doral in the past supported and served these at-risk students?
I can only speak to the 1 year where the data was available, that was reviewed at that time. No. Remember, for the state, we do have special at-risk funding that the state allocates to school districts to use to address the specific needs for our at-risk learners, which indicates that yes, they do require above and beyond what a quote-unquote typical learner needs.
And I do want to remind everyone for the record that at-risk students sometimes have 2, 3 special needs, and we're only given funds for 1 weighted need per child. Even if they have 2 or 3 weighted needs, we're servicing and supporting sometimes more than just 1 weighted need that we are funded for.
Correct. I mean, a student could be identified as at risk, could be identified as an EL learner, could be identified as a student with a disability, and each one of those weights, we don't get weights for all 3, we only get a weight for 1.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I was going to make a motion, but I'll.
Oh, no, please. Yes.
Oh,
I didn't see. Please, Kaylee.
I do have a question on why don't we put funds into the existing schools rather than a new school, whether it's expanding school buildings to make them bigger, having more counselors to help students individually, more teachers in schools to help the one-on-one in smaller classes, or as well as funding for the student teachers in every school.
Somebody want to take that?
I'll try and respond to that. I mean, it's a great question, honestly, and I attempted to speak to it earlier when I talked about our long-term financial plans that we work so hard to establish, and our long-term facility plans that we work so hard to establish based on historical patterns and projected revenue and enrollment needs. And we have made a number of decisions based on our best thinking and a lot of hard work about where we anticipate investing our dollars for next fiscal year and where we anticipate investing our dollars into facilities for years to come, including in some instances the closure of some schools and consolidation of enrollment zones. That work is complicated and painstaking, and the work that often comes before this board. And this new proposed school would represent a major change or new variable that would inform that plan. So it would require some adjustments that we would all have to wrestle with.
That's it. Thank you.
You bet. Okay. Trustee Smith.
All right, just a quick point of clarification. The first motion should be for our board to take a position, and then we would continue the meeting and talk about the areas of emphasis in the response.
Correct. I think it'd be a lot easier if we came to a consensus on what direction we want to move forward on, and then we can begin to talk about the input that we want to provide to the charter committee, the charter authority. Yeah.
Then I will. Yeah. All right. Then I will take a shot here. Go ahead. No, you go. Yeah.
Right, because I just want to express my thoughts, similar to my fellow trustees, Wesley and Dr. Dye. So I'm a Title I student, graduate. Aside from the fact that
as stated earlier in the public comment, this looks like I think it's slide 22 that breaks down the costs and the investments that will be made on this property that they will never own. That looks like a reckless financial decision or approach, which is easy to make if you're not making any personal investment. If I have if I have the ability to make these investments with someone else's money and possibly lose it, and never gain anything out of it, I think I would take this as well. And that's what my concern is, and that's why I feel the way I feel. Because first and foremost, if we're gonna have any other schools in our district, I need them to have the exact same demographics that we have. I need them to have Title I students. I need them to have free lunch students. I need them to match the service that we're providing. So unless you're doing that, you should not have access to our funds. But that's separate. Apart from that, I think that this is a bad deal overall, and there's no way I could support something like this. So just wanted to share that. Thank you, Trustee.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Woodley. And we can certainly have a motion in a second, then we can have some further discussion before we take a final vote, if we want to do that.
No, I just wanted to do that same as Alex did there. And I just really wanted to, I'll just sum it up real quick here. I heard the public comment, and I appreciate, again, what was said about innovative and finding ways to move forward with charter schools and the purpose of it. But again, looking at the law part of it there, just on what was stated here, there was a lot of loopholes that was already stated, so I won't go into that. And then some of the facts that the team presented, there was there were some questions that weren't unanswered there. And then the data, again, sticking to our institutional knowledge and the expertise that we have about the demographic and the financial projections raised before us today. So, basically, there's a lot of big questions there. And then going into the risk, the significant uncertainty of the timeline, being very aggressive. And can you not, to allude to a public comment that was made about, is that a good deal or what? Real estate thinking. So that's where I really stand with that. And also the student remain a concern about whether the expansion truly serves everyone, and then is that the need? There's a lot more that goes into it, but again, the accountability, I want to be clear, assure that Durrell's governing board, that you guys are taking on this deal, and if you do, you're doing everything right by the book, and you're making a first-time go. And what that means, militarily speaking, that you're going to get expert on this, and you've got it dialed in. There is no deviation. You're absolutely 100% correct, and you get it straight the first time. And I don't feel that. I don't see that based on the facts and the data, and specifically the piece that I like about the law. So I just kind of wanted to sum that piece up there, just in a nutshell. So thank you.
Thank you. I will also add to that as a trustee of this district, we talk a lot and we have spoken a lot about our traditional public schools, but we have also heard loud and clear from the local grassroots nonprofit charters that this directly threatens them and their taxpayer investments too. This very board recently approved Mariposa Language and Learning Academy, which is a Title I school, educating 100% free and reduced lunch students. And they just spent millions of taxpayer dollars to expand their school with a full and unanimous vote of this board, by the way. And so my position on this is absolutely student-focused, making sure that every child has an opportunity to learn in the best environment. And we have those environments here within our own district and within our district-sponsored charters. And so I do want to acknowledge the incredible response from local grassroots charters that this would undermine and endanger their own schools too. So I really want to be very clear that this is not being framed from a public district with charters, because our local nonprofit charters stand against this application as well. So on that note, I will go ahead and make a shot at a first motion, and we'll see where we go with that. I move that the Board of Trustees directs the superintendent to submit a formal position of opposition in response to the State Public Charter School Authority request regarding the amendment application by the UNR Doral Academy of Northern Nevada corporate charter school franchise.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a clarifying question from the superintendent.
Yes, I just want to clarify, did we intend to have the letter come from the superintendent or from the Board of Trustees and written by the president on behalf of the board?
Well, that's a good thing. I thought we were giving direction to you on what staff is going to put together for the response. So I would assume that whatever position we take, everything else would be born from that position. But I'm more than happy to make an adjustment to that, because we're not just deciding as a board, aren't we also directing you and staff for what we're going to submit?
My understanding, and I'll lead to general counsel on this, is we're collectively deciding as a board, and then the second piece of this will be what that letter looks like. And so it technically is the board, not the superintendent. Am I correct with that?
Yes, so it would come from the board, so all of the vote and the letter would come from the board. If the board gives direction for staff to assist with that, I don't think that goes beyond the scope of the agenda item, but I do believe the agenda item is for the board to, for this to come from board input to the SPCSA.
Okay, so if I were to make a friendly, would I say that I move that the Board of Trustees takes a formal position of opposition in response to the State Public Charter School Authority request regarding the amendment application by the UNR Doral Academy of Northern Nevada corporate charter school franchise?
That works.
Sure, I'm sending it to JJ too, so she has it. I move that the Board of Trustees takes the formal position of opposition in response to the State Public Charter School Authority request regarding the amendment application by the UNR Doral Academy of Northern Nevada corporate charter school franchise.
And I'll second that.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you. We got a motion by Trustee Smith, second by Trustee Phoenix. Some more discussion. I do want to just chime in too. I haven't had that opportunity yet. I will just say that, you know, in my 5-year, and I took some notes so I don't get sidetracked, so forgive me if I'm looking down on my screen, but in my 5 years on this board, you know, the public school, charter school tug of war it's really been uncomfortable for me personally. I know the value of both, and the debate has become so polarized to the point where I think it's almost seemingly there's no compromise to it. I want to begin by acknowledging something I think is important, and that's high-performing charter school proposal. I recognize the work that's been gone into developing the school and the educational opportunities that it would provide our students, and I don't believe that we should dismiss the proposal simply because it is a charter school. But I also have to approach this decision from a perspective of responsibility as a trustee of the Washoe County School District. And the reality is that the overwhelming majority of our students in this community will continue to attend our traditional public schools. And that means our responsibility is to protect the strength, the stability, and the long-term viability of the public school system that serves the vast majority of children in this community. I think if we were not facing very real financial challenges on the horizon, I think the conversation could be different. I think the fact is that we have critical needs in our schools, from staffing and student services to maintaining our buildings and providing the programs our students deserve. And at a time when enrollment is declining regionally and nationally, adding another charter school means additional public resources being directed outside the district at a time when those resources are already stretched. So I want to be honest with this issue. We have charter schools. We have our own charter schools that we sponsor. Some of those schools are not performing at the level that we expect. We have an obligation to look in the mirror and ask ourselves why that is happening. And we cannot stand here and argue that every charter school, rather, is a threat to public education while ignoring the challenges within the charter schools that we ourselves sponsor. I think that's an important part of this conversation for me and for another time. But this isn't about whether charter schools can be good schools. They absolutely can be. This is about whether creating another charter school is in the best interest of the entire public education system that we are responsible for governing as a body. So as a trustee, my first obligation is to the students, families, the staff of the Washoe County School District. Have to consider not only the students who may benefit from this particular school, but also the tens of thousands of students who remain in our district schools and depend upon us to provide them with a high-quality education. I respect the people behind this proposal deeply. I respect the performance of this particular charter, but respecting a proposal and supporting it are two different things. So I believe we can support educational choice while also recognizing that public resources are finite. And when these resources are finite, I believe our responsibility is to make sure the system serving the greatest number of children remains strong, financially sustainable, and capable of meeting the needs of every student who walks through our doors. So for those reasons, I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you. All right, any other further comments, discussions? All in favor? We have a motion from Trustee Smith, second from Trustee Phoenix. All in motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
In favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go to part 2 of this, and we have an opportunity to provide input to the SPCSA, and that hearing is, the deadline is September 8th, and the hearing is October 8th. Thank you. So now that we collectively agree to oppose, entertain some discussion on what those public inputs will be for us.
Mr. President, if I
yes.
may, I'll start off. I'll just point
Thank
out
you.
one, only because I used to write a lot of these types of staff reports. So I think first and foremost, I would like to see us identify any, which we have already identified, staff has violations of NAC in the process. So anything that they were required to do that they haven't done, that should be first and foremost in our letter to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, they need to follow their own rules. Trustee Smith.
Thank you. So I have read through this like no less than 5 times. And you know me well enough to know that I'm not playing. So I have a few areas that I would like us to please focus on that we're also missing from the staff presentation. So first I want to say everything you had in the staff presentation I think is really important. I'd like to see all that carried forward. But there were a few areas that we didn't really answer some of the points of the application. And that is around the star ratings and the real academic area overview of this school, okay? Because this is an area where very reasonably the State Public Charter School Authority will read the application and go, oh, you know, there are all these 1- and 2-star schools, and so we know that there are only certain rules where charter schools are allowed to open. So in the vein of that, we absolutely need to address the fact that there are no underserved students in the Reno community. That statement is made multiple times in the application, and it is not correct whatsoever. Our educators do provide and meet every need, as we are, you know, that's the whole point of, you know, FAPE, you know. So this is where I think we need to really focus in the response, and that's the star rating weaponization. So we'll look at Hidden Valley Elementary School, which one of our commenters mentioned the same thing, and I knew I was going to bring this up as well. So this school is only allowed in this particular plot of land because it's right down the street from Hidden Valley, and I mean literally right down one street. It's about a mile away, less than a mile to Hidden Valley Elementary School. And Hidden Valley Elementary School is a 2-star school, but it's only a 2-star school because it has several intensive special education and behavioral programs there. And those students are integrated with general education students, which is what we're supposed to do. And this is how star ratings get weaponized. So I would point out that yes, Hidden Valley is a 2-star school, but here's why. Because if we didn't have those intensive programs there, I mean, it would conceivably be a 3 or a 4-star school. And this proposed franchise school won't even have any of those programs. So Hidden Valley specifically serves a population of 25% special education and 15% English language learners. That's based on the most recent Nevada academic framework. And I think we should point out that this school, by its own admission, is not educating these kids. But yet the placement for this school is allowed because Hidden Valley is a 2-star school. And I think that's something we really need to look at. And then we need to pull it out more broadly. The application references the 89520 zip code, which is, I think, intentionally misleading. When you look at where 89502 actually goes on a map, this school location is on the edge of it. It's very, very close to 89521, which I'll get to in a minute. So it pulls from this area again as justification. But I believe this application is disqualified when you look at the real radius of this school. This is really important, folks. And in the staff presentation, we didn't talk about star ratings, but the State Public Charter School Authority must deny if it does not have reasonable educational environments around it. Here's why this is so important. This school is literally down the road from the original, the first, hopefully only, Doral Academy. That's there in South Reno. It's literally the exact same road that goes straight there. And this land is 2 miles away from 89521. So if we look at 89502, and as far as that zone goes from this school, and we were to do a full radius, that is really what we need to explain to the State Public Charter School Authority, because what they will see in our response is 2 things. One, this school is asking to open in school year 2028, so our response should include all the schools in that full radius and how many of our schools are closing. So remember, we're in our last year of service for Dodson, that's a 2-star school, Corbett, that's a 1-star school, and Veterans, that's a 1-star school. We're closing those schools, so the State Public Charter School Authority should know that, and we should reflect what schools we'll have in 2028 and shortly thereafter. And then we also need to actually include the star ratings and the performance of our district-sponsored charters. We've got ACE High School in 89502, Coral Academy High School, 4- and 5-star schools. But the real goal with this is, and I think disqualifies the application, is that this proposed school is only, like I said, 2 miles away, right down one road to 89521. It is the closest area to the highest concentration of top star-rated schools in the entire state, which is South Reno. So when you actually look at a map, the application claims that this second campus is centrally located. It is no such thing. It is literally directly down the street from the original location. It's right on the edge there. What it is in the radius of is in 7 5-star schools, 2 4-star schools, 3 3-star schools, including a 5-star high school. The reason why this is important is that if our response fails to acknowledge the star ratings of the whole area and take into account the schools that are closing, we're missing an opportunity to directly respond to why charters are allowed to be established. And this area is absolutely not an underperforming area under any shape or size or anything. And I think that that's something that needs to be included. Staying on with the location, we've got the members of the State Public Charter School Authority. I don't expect them all to know Reno like the back of their hand. I would include an actual map that puts little stars on the original Doral and then the proposed second franchise location so that they can actually see how close they are, and then they can actually see all the star ratings, because that's really where we're pulling from, is from that top performing area that we have here, because I think that that would help them understand that it's not centrally located. And continuing on here, this is something that I submitted for supplemental materials, and it's the non-compliance disqualification. So on slide 5 of our presentation, it says very plainly that the State Public Charter School Authority must actually deny an application if it fails to meet any of its performance frameworks with academics, finances, or organization. And last week, the audit committee, the state audit division, released probably one of the most stunning reports I have ever read, and I included it for supplemental materials. This procurement report had some real doozies in it about what's happening with for-profit EMOs and the State Public Charter School Authority. And I'll just read some of those because I think we should mention that. So I will mention that the State Public Charter School Authority isn't revealing who these EMOs are, but I do believe that we should, in our response, ask that they deny this on the basis of finances and organization, because there are clearly some really questionable practices, and if the identities of these EMOs were known, that could be a reason for denial. And so I'll just mention a couple of those so that everyone can be somewhat aware of this. So of all the charter school contracts that the auditors looked at, every single one of them had major issues with the EMOs that they were contracted with. And it does say that the SPCSA, as part of its organizational framework, is supposed to oversee this, although the charter authority has no procedures in place to ensure contract provisions. They're not even looking at these contracts. The charter school authority went on to admit, this is on page 33, that draft EMO contracts undergo review by SPCSA at the time of the initial charter school application process. However, this process was absent of legal review and approval. What are you even reviewing? I mean, this is some serious impropriety. But the point of it is you can't deny this because they're hiding the identities of these EMOs. So here's a few of those things that these hidden EMOs without names have done. One of the EMOs swept the state education funds to a bank account in Arizona controlled by the EMO, and further, none of the school's governing board members were authorized signers. That's not legal. Additionally, there was a lack of enforcement from the charter school authority. I mean, it's throughout the entire report. All 5 of the financial reports reviewed by the state auditors said that the EMO's management fees did not align with each school's expenditure report as required by statutes and regulations. That would fall under the denial that we have here. And, one of the charter schools was paying its EMO $184,000 without any invoices, just gave them $184,000 with no invoices whatsoever, was just paying them that. Another EMO sent its executives and school personnel on a cruise for $20,000, which I thought was really interesting. Definitely not okay. So the reason why I point this out and then I have it is that I would like our response to show that it is no fault of our own that we don't know what these EMOs are that have engaged in this malfeasance. But if any of them are academica, that would be a must deny. And the third thing that I'll mention that I'd like to see in the response is the work that's already happening with the UNR College of Education. We're doing all of these things. We have amazing choice. Our district-sponsored charters have amazing choice. All of our current charters in the entire area have amazing choice. We're already supporting student teaching. We're already doing this work. And I think that that needs to be really, really clear, exactly all the options and the support that we have for students, not just for student teachers who are students that are adults, and then also for our children as well, because this response must be rooted with a student-centered focus. We absolutely must talk about our kids, the options that they have, the support that they have, school of choice, all of those things that we have to make it abundantly clear that there is nothing in this application or educational model that our multitude of educational ecosystem schools offer, which is not just the Washoe County School District. It's district-sponsored charters, it's state public charters, all of which receive public funds. And so I think that that really needs to be emphasized, and that's on top of everything else that you have in the application. Thank you for giving me that time, Mr. President.
Sure. Would you like to summarize that in 30 seconds? Thank you, Trustee Smith. Trustee Westlake.
Thank you, President Mayberry. I think it's really important that we, that it absolutely is going to affect stakeholders. There is, I mean, from families to our construction, it is going to literally disrupt, like I said before, the whole ecosystem that we have here in Nevada. And we are flatlining on sales tax. Doing this is going to create a huge hardship, things that we haven't even really looked at. We are being fiscally responsible by reducing our footprint. If there are schools that are not supporting enough number of students to remain open, we are doing the fiscally responsible thing of closing those schools and moving those kids to a next closer area. It's hard. It breaks my heart. One of the schools was in my district, Little Kate Smith. It was heartbreaking. But we are making those decisions in order to do the right thing for our state. Now we have a company coming in from Florida, coming in as a franchise and using students as a way to make money and take the money out of our state. This is going to absolutely affect that we are going to have to close schools. I mean, to think otherwise is being delusional. There's only so many kids. It's not like all of a sudden all these kids are going to flood in and there's enough for everybody. And we're servicing all of the children. But in closing these schools, we are also going to have to take on the hardship of getting those children that no longer have a school that they can afford or that meets their needs, their special needs. We are going to need to bus them to a school farther away in order to get them to a public school, because not all are haves. There's a lot of have-nots, and it has to be stated. Because we're required to provide a public education. And if that means then more buses, more gas, more expenditures, then we are going to do that. We will meet those children's needs. But is it feasible that we can? I just don't know. I don't know, because everyone is stretched so thin. Another thing that I forgot to bring up earlier is we are also going above and beyond. We have our own policing organization to protect our children and to protect the neighborhoods around our schools. Doral does not. They're going to rely on Washoe County for that large body, up to maybe 1,700 of students. I know we have MOUs with organizations and we rely and help each other. We also help Reno PD and Sparks PD and Washoe County. But we are going above and beyond to ensure that our students are safe and our neighborhoods are safe. And we foot the bill for that. We do. We're not taking more money away from a state that is already stretched thin. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Westlake. Trustee Nicolette.
Yes, I can be brief on this. As far as the letter, if appropriate, and I know legal needs to chime in, a bunch of experts need to chime in, but I would like it to reflect that Academica, we can't see their financials. And I think that that's extremely important when public dollars are being put into whatever coffer. I'm not even going to try to identify where it goes. I don't know because I can't see that. And I would like to be able to see where our public dollars are going. The second thing that I really would like to Trustee Smith's, I'd like us to expand on the fact that we are already doing what Doral's expansion, and that's a lovely idea, is doing, and much, much more. Our community partners, I think they would want us to shore them up and illuminate the fact that we do so much with them for our students. And then finally, I think that I would personally like, and I don't know, it'll fall on deaf ears, I'm not sure, but maybe our legislators and our Nevada State Board of Education will really look at this. But this unlevel playing field, this ability to scale enrollment is, I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to use the word, forgive me, Council Montalvo, I think it should be illegal. That is simply not how things should go down for students. And there's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Trustee Vice President Whitley.
Thank you. I just want to just state my last point. I know I gave first input, but here's the reality. The reality is that we have spent months and years directing staff, go out in the community, find out what they need. We're not making investment decisions. We're asking the community, the parents, the neighborhoods, what would you like to see? What would you like to see in these new schools that we're building? What would you like to see in the schools that we're remodeling, that we're with our modernization plan, with our 1-point entry? We're asking them, and they're telling us what they want. And you guys have brought it back to us, and based on that, we've made investments. And we need to protect those investments. And that's what my concern is. So I want to make sure that they're aware of that, because these are our constituents' investments.
Thank you. I'll say too that good discussion, and this is the hard part, right? You know, I would rather see us stick to issues that they need to know of our opposition. The EMO issues with academia, I know there's a lot of concern. Clearly, there's a lot of knowledge. I don't know if that necessarily needs to be in this particular input to the Charter Authority. It's already noted in our legislative framework that we essentially oppose these for-profit educational management organizations. I do like I'm hearing consistently, and I agree that a need is being met already. I appreciate the discussion on the demographics, the WC1 investments, the overall fiscal impact, that they operate by different rules. But I think if we start to go down a rabbit hole when we go into the nuances when it comes to us opposing this particular project, I think, you know, there's state requirements that are already in place. If we really want to affect change, I think it was you, Trustee Nicolette, that we should really work with our legislators. That's where it begins. I think some of the discussions, in my opinion, has kind of gone beyond the scope of where we should be going in terms of opposition. Trustee Phoenix.
Yeah, just to finish this up here finally, you kind of heard it already. So number one for me, just stick to the law like you have been already. And then that's very important for anything that goes down the road. And again, just stick to the facts, man. That's it. You know, you stick to the facts and you provide that with the data that supports all that. I know you have the framework already. You delivered that earlier. But again, just sticking to that stuff there. And then the risks that I pointed out earlier. Some of the things with financing, timeline, and all staffing, and operational readiness, the impacts that I could have. And then again, you've heard already, so again, students, the access for everyone, and I won't belabor all of that. And accountability, this is where I'll spend just a little piece on that, is that the governance from the SPSA oversight and academia, you know, the relationships, the commitments, the consequences. There's a lot that authority, you know, has to consider. And we want to make sure, like I said earlier, when you go for that expert badge, when you're going for your infantry expert badge, you got to get everything 100% correct to get a go. And then if you don't, you're out. I really want to emphasize the importance of making sure that it's done right. So just in closing, you know, I'm not against charter schools. Again, it was brought up. It's innovative. It's the way to go. But I'll stick to, again, stick to the facts, the law, the facts, the data, the risks, the student impact, and accountability is a big piece for me. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Phoenix. Trustee Smith.
So, Mr. President, I definitely hear you on that. I do believe that it's salient to point out the financial compliance concerns, because if any of the EMOs are the ones in this audit, which their identities are currently being kept private, that's a must deny. And so while we don't know which of these, if any, are Academica, they are the largest for-profit EMO operator in the entire state. So statistically, it would be really surprising if they're not these. I'm not suggesting that we would outline every one of these, but the reality is this audit report has disqualifying facts about some for-profit EMOs. We just don't know who they are. The State Public Charter School Authority knows, but if any of these things are Academica, that would be a must deny immediately. And so I would trust staff to interpret what this looks like in terms of a letter or in the response, but I do feel we would be remiss to not point out this audit report because it would be an immediate must deny if any of these are Academica.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's just not crossing that threshold of this blanket opposition of EMOs. I mean, I think when you get into nuances, I agree with you. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll also add that I think I touched on it before and we've all talked about it, that the response from the district and from our board absolutely must be student focused. It needs to be from a position of what it is that we offer and what it is that our area offers to all of our schools from the experience of our children, and not so much us as an organization or as an entity.
And I think our staff can help us kind of drill down if we can bring forward sort of the high-level topics. We can fill in the blanks with the staff based on this public conversation. That makes sense, Superintendent?
How specific do you want this motion to be, just like the high-level themes? Because I've been drafting the high-level themes.
I think from my perspective, I'll speak for myself, I think that would be a really good start.
Okay.
And then we could have some further discussion. We can hear from our superintendent if that's manageable for them. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, no, I already have something. I've been keeping notes.
Anybody else? If I'm happy to, Trustee Smith, why don't you share with us a draft motion?
I do, thank you. I do also want to just say one other thing, because I'd be remiss to not say this. It's in their application and it bothers me. I do not believe that our current superintendent or our former superintendent are being fairly represented in this application. I will not include that in the motion because I will defer to our current superintendent and our former superintendent about how they'd like that represented. But it should be said on the record that this was a misrepresentation, and this follows a pattern for Academica schools. They made the exact same false representation of now Vice President Woodley and Trustee Nicolette and Chief Van Tress when Academica filed their application for Matter Academy. And all three of those leaders I just named filed statements clarifying what they supported and what they were told and all of that. And so when I read this application, I felt exactly the same way about how Superintendent McMaster and former Superintendent Ernst were portrayed in it. But I'm not going to include that in the motion. I will let you decide what you feel is appropriate with that. Okay.
And if I just say too, regardless of what's in the letter, to your point, this is a public discussion, and so everything we say is still on the record, and so whether it makes the letter or not, I mean, this is a public meeting where people can come hear your perspective. So it's been a very healthy exercise from that perspective. I don't want us to lose sight of that it doesn't make it in the letter. All of us have had a voice.
Oh, I would love to send a recording of this entire item to every single member of the State Public Charter School Authority Board personally.
Which is not an elected body, by the way.
Which is not an elected body. That's exactly correct. They have no fiduciary responsibility to the voters or the taxpayers in Washoe County. All right, let me take a stab at this. And JJ, I'm going to send this to you. But I was keeping notes as to what everybody was saying, okay? And I can pare it down. We can do it. I move that the Board of Trustees includes in its response to the State Public Charter School Authority all points, deficiencies, and disqualifiers noted in the item's presentation. Factual demographics for the WCSD and current and proposed UNR Doral schools. School performance and specialty education programs at the full radius of area WCSD schools. Information on local charters in the area. Highlight corporate revenue of the for-profit EMO. Financial compliance concerns with the for-profit EMO and SPCSA. Protection of Nevada and Washoe County taxpayer assets and investments. And the response should be provided to all the government entities identified in the agenda items presentation.
Okay, that's a lot, but that's, it has to be. You want to repeat that, JJ?
I got it. She sent it to me.
Okay.
I can read it again.
Well, I'd like somebody to read it again, please, yes.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. I move that the Board of Trustees includes in its response to the State Public Charter School Authority all points, deficiencies, and disqualifiers noted in the item's presentation. Factual demographics for the WCSD and current and proposed UNR Doral schools. School performance and specialty education programs at the full radius of area WCSD schools. Information on local charters in the area. Highlight corporate revenue of the for-profit EMO. Financial compliance concerns with for-profit EMOs and the SPCSA. Protection of Nevada and Washoe County taxpayer assets and investments. And the response should be provided to all the government entities identified in this agenda item presentation.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? I understand we need a second. Yeah, well, I guess we need a second to discuss this. So is there a second on this?
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Nicolette. Any questions, clarifications on the motion, Superintendent McMaster?
I do have a question on the highlighting the revenue of the corporate EMO. We don't have access to that, so are you meaning highlight the fact that we don't have access to the financials?
Oh, no, we've got
For
it.
clarity.
Oh, no, we've got it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What's in the application, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait, we're talking about the EMO, the corporate revenue of the EMO.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that.
You said highlight the revenue at the corporate EMO for-profit, or the for-profit EMO. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we actually have that.
Can you reference what
I
you're referring to, just
Would
for our
love
clarity?
to, yeah. It's
Thank
in
you.
the proposed, it is 6/2. Oh, no, page 6-3. It's attachment 6 of their application, the projected system budget. So I did the analysis on this. When the new campus is proposed to open, there'd be roughly a 92% increase in the fees, with their first year being $964,000. And then Academica gets a raise of 13.5% every single year, year over year. And the last year that they project is school year 30-31. And at that point, the Academica fees go up to $1,241,568. So they provide this right for us.
And if I may, yes, absolutely. But to clarify, my reference is Academica in general. They're corporate dollars, not just Doral, so which is much bigger. And you can't find it because they don't have to file it.
So you would like both?
I don't-
Both what Trustee Smith, for the motion, just so we have clarity on what you mean by the corporate structure with Academica and the issues. It is what Trustee Smith outlined in the amendments in their supplemental materials, the payments that are going to the Academica, and then it is the issue that Academica's finances are not are not published, so we don't actually know what their financial structure looks like.
Correct, thank you. And it had to, in my reference, just to kind of remind all of us, it had to do with that long-term sustainability.
And so on that note, that is, I totally agree, and that's a great explanation of it. I kept it as financial compliance concerns with for-profit EMOs to keep it broad for the motion, but that's a great explanation of it, if that's okay. But I kept that part high level, but that's a great explanation of what she meant.
Okay, I think that that's clear now, and I just want to double check with the team that presented. I believe everything else that you've asked for was already shared in the presentation or easily accessible. Does the team have any concerns with the ask on this motion?
Good question.
You guys are good?
Okay. Vice President Woodley, you had made a comment too. I want to make sure that made it into the motion. Did you hear it?
I did in the initial, the very first thing she stated, something to the effect of what was omitted or what wasn't done correctly. That covers it. Yes.
Got it.
Yep, and that's in all the points, deficiencies, and disqualifiers noted in the items presentation.
Can I clarify on that? I think what he's referring to, Vice President Willie's comment about it's a bad deal with UNR, which is in the presentation. Is that also encompassed in that about how they're basically building a
Absolutely.
facility that is going to UNR and spending public monies to go to UNR? That is encompassed in that motion. Okay.
It was definitely my intent, but to follow President Mayberry, keeping the themes high level, but it sure was. From my intent, yes.
Trustee Phoenix, please.
Yeah, just the only comment again, as always, making sure that what we ask of you, and you did, I just want to make sure that when we ask of the staff, is this something that you can do, or you got it? I always want to make sure that you give me that green light, you're good to go, and not just say, Roger that, sir, I'm going to carry on. I just want to make sure. I know it was asked and answered, but please, one more time for me, so I have a good.
Yeah, I mean, to clarify, it's the information we provided on this slide deck in addition to the star rating and some of the stipulations that Trustee Smith had included, which I believe we can handle.
Thank you very much for that confirmation.
Yeah, the only thing that just kind of gives me pause, and maybe it's not necessarily in it because there's so many nuances, but I'm not real comfortable getting into Dorrell's business arrangement with their company. I mean, I don't care. I'm more concerned about their negative impact, the fiscal impact on this organization, on our resources, the fact that needs are being met. So, I mean, help me out here. I don't want to get into the nuances of their arrangement. That's up to them. I could care less.
I think
It sort of is, but it's not, because it says right there that the sponsor must deny if it's not meeting their performance framework.
Okay.
The state auditor says these EMOs that were anonymously in this report
yeah, I get that.
are not. We don't know, but if Academica's any one of these, it says right there that this application must be denied for not meeting its framework for finances or organization.
Yeah, they have to follow their own rules. So that's I can get behind that. Thank you for crystallizing that. I just want to make sure that's where we're going. So thank you
Correct.
for that.
Oh, Doral, they can agree to whatever they want with their EMO. My interest is solely that this audit report.
Okay. Yeah. If it's tailored to that, I'm okay with that. Okay. So, looks like we have a first by Trustee Smith with a second from Trustee Nicolette on the motion as stated. I'm not hearing any other additions or any further comments. Yes? I'm sure, Kayla, you can repeat everything. All right, just fine. Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Great work, everybody. Okay, we're going to move on to reports. I am going to forego item 4.02 for board reports. Going to 4.01, though, we have our student representative. This is Kaylee's first meeting. Kaylee, is there anything you want to share with us?
Yes, we have our kickoff for the Student Voice meeting on September 16th at the Automobile Museum, and then our Student Voice Instagram is where like students can share their voice.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. Okay, we'll forego 4.02 in the interest of time. 4.03 is the superintendent's report. It's the Superintendent McMaster. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you. I would just like to take a moment to recognize the extraordinary impact of the Hawk Fire in our community. So many of our families, our students, our employees have been directly impacted by these fires. Many of our colleagues have been evacuated from their own homes for several days, and some have had a devastating loss of their homes. So first and foremost, I just want to thank all of our first responders and everyone who continues to work around the clock to protect our entire community. I also want to thank the many district employees who've stepped forward to help wherever needed. I want to just share a story on Saturday as the fire crested over the top of Peavine Mountain. It was headed towards the North Valleys, where our North Transportation Yard is just at the base of Peavine. We got very worried about the potential impact. So we made the decision, the tough decision, to evacuate that yard. This was an enormous undertaking in a very short period of time, and I just want to recognize the team that made this happen. So a special thanks, first of all, to Transportation Director Scott Lee, who assembled more than 75 transportation drivers and staff in a very short amount of time. Scott himself was also evacuated from his own home during this time that he was coordinating these efforts, yet he continued to lead and support his team during a very difficult time. And I think this just speaks volumes to his commitment to our students and our entire community. We were lucky to be able to evacuate all of those buses before it went into the red zone, so it was truly heroic work. I also want to just recognize our own Deputy Superintendent, Dawn Angotti, our Chief of School Police, Shauna Baker, our Area Superintendent, Melinda Baker, our Chief Facilities Officer, Tammy Zimmerman, one of our interim principals, Mark Zimmerman, Alice Smith, 5th grade teacher, Stephanie Smith, Palmer Elementary 1st grade teacher, Chris Smith, and Palmer 4th grade teacher, Waylon Denny, as well as Chief Communication Officer, Michelle Anderson, and Communications Director, Ben McDonald. They all jumped in and went on site and were helping to shuttle vehicles back and forth, especially our white fleet. So thank you to all of you for taking time away from your families and putting our community first. I'm just incredibly proud of the way the Washoe County School District team responded. This is what a community looks like in crisis, when people step forward and do whatever's needed to help one another. I also just want to recognize that closing schools across the districts I know can be frustrating, particularly when a school itself is maybe outside of the evacuation zone. These are not decisions that we take lightly, but during a regional emergency, we have to look beyond the location of an individual school site. Thousands of our students and employees have been evacuated. They've faced power outages that are affecting our entire community. Our transportation system was significantly impacted, and our public safety resources were stretched very thin and impacted our broader emergency response. So after extensive conversations with our regional emergency partners, we determined that the combination of all of these factors made that broader closure the safest and most responsible decision for our schools on Monday and today. I know closures create a real challenge for families, and we appreciate everyone's patience and understanding. Starting last night and early this morning, we began assessing what tomorrow may look like, making sure we evaluate all safety and operational needs, from the evacuations to road closures to potential staffing shortages to meal services after we've had schools that have been without power for long periods of time, to transportation impacts. We will be, after this board meeting, assembling as a team and sending out information to our staff and our families because we know that early communication is welcome and helpful. So once again, thank you to everyone. Thank you for being kind and patient to one another, and thank you to everyone who's pulling together for our community right now.
Thank you, Superintendent McMaster. Yeah, but none of that goes unnoticed. So thank you for your continued service and the service of so many dedicated public servants at the Washoe County School District. We'll move to closing items. Item 5.01 is our public comment. Looks like we have public comment. JJ.
John Eppolito.
Mr. Eppolito, good afternoon.
Good to see you. John Eppolito, Protect Nevada Children. Like I said earlier, Infinite Campus contains the most massive student database ever created on U.S. school students. I'm talking about personal, subjective, and incriminating student data that IC stores forever on our children. Data like discipline, minor discipline, medical, counseling, psychiatric, and lots more. A few years ago, I had a phone call from the spouse of a WCSD school psychologist, and this person told me the spouse was upset about having to upload all this psychiatric data into Infinite Campus because the psychologist realized that Infinite Campus is not covered by HIPAA laws because they are not a healthcare provider. In addition, WCSD has told us Infinite Campus shares this student data with others. To date, the district won't tell us who all these others are. Go to protectnevadachildren.org to learn more. Since we just had good luck with the new attorney, maybe we'll ask again who IC shares our children's personal, subjective, and incriminating data with. During the next legislative session, our goal is to require IC to start deleting student data. I'm told this will be harder than what we did last session, which was to get the state to start deleting student data. So we need your help. If anyone listening has children in WCSD who are under 18, you can request to view all their data that Infinite Campus will store forever about your children. Go to protectnevadachildren.org. Toward the bottom of the page, there's a link to WCSD's page to request this data. Remember, it's your child's personal, subjective, and incriminating data. You will probably be surprised at the amount and type of data that IC will store forever about your child. Again, we don't know who Infinite Campus will share our children's data with, and more importantly, no one really knows how this may affect the future of our children. I'm John Eppolito. You can find 1,500 of us on Facebook at Protect Nevada Children.
Thank you.
The board received emails from David Murdoch, Tom Marr, Joseph and Penny Mayer, Dick Allen, Stephanie Robeson, Rachel Rose Van Heusen, Ding Sheng Li. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. And item 5.02 is the next meeting announcement, September 8th. And thank you all for being flexible today. We had a time-sensitive item that was 3.5 hours, so maybe it was a blessing that we only heard this item today, given the crisis that we find ourselves in. I suspect the next meeting will be very long, because we'll have to take what we missed and pile that on, but I'll be in touch with all of you as we get closer to that. So thank you all very much. And again, next meeting adjournment announcement is September 8, 2026. Item 5.03 is adjourn the meeting at, 5:32 p.m. Have a safe and pleasant evening. Be safe out there.